It was very rude. Because it spawned the moment I started compacting flower sand.
I'll compact your flour in sand,
Hey,
if you know what I mean. Tell me, what was wrong with what I said, Cad?
Yeah, he's gonna help me compact. He was gonna help me compact flower sand so we can make silicone.
Yeah. Sounds like somebody needs to get their mind out of the gutter.
Come on, Cad.
We can't, but
That's where you're wrong, Cad.
Definitely can't.
oh, the sandstorm got rid of the flower sand node. What the hell? Not the Coriolis one or the really? Never know. Like literal
biome.
fucking iron instead.
El New York biome.
There's cacti and capybara in it.
El Capybara.
Are you playing Peak?
Yes, and sandstorms.
Like the wind shear?
It's a mesa biome.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I was playing that yesterday for the first time. Got to an ice area and there was like a capybara hot spring.
Yeah. Has a little fedora.
Yeah, we did not make it. I haven't been here for a while, but I gotta go now. Arts stuff.
Good luck with that.
Oh,
Goodbye.
Hey. Is it insurance fraud if I get an estimate and then get a check and then not use it to fix the car?
No. They're paying you for damages.
I don't use it for the game.
Just call your insurance.
Already sent them a claim. Now I have to prepare a shot to get an estimate.
I do recommend getting 2 estimates. Not that you should not trust the first one, but
Just so you can see if there's a range.
it depends. Yeah. You, in general, you are, but it might not be because of the might not be because of the reason you're thinking it is. I have not checked what today's is.
We had spare root today.
Correct.
Yes.
We definitely had it.
Yes.
Correct.
Apparently, yeah. If it is spirit roots today, then yeah.
Later.
Select
Later. Who was that chat?
Stick the landing.
では前に出ます。
Hello guys, how's it going? Oh wow, it's already 7:20? God, it's taking me forever to set up for stream. I started setting up at like 7:03. It's like 7:20 now, and I'm like, oh okay, guess I just won't actually get live in that amount of time. Ice, thank you for the 25. Appreciate it. Over a year indeed. It's over 2 years. But how was everybody's weekend? I did just get the go live tweet out. Do me the favor, chat. Go give that some love. Oh. Oh. It never fails. I feel tired after eating sugar now. I had some ice cream that I feel really tired. Okay. Let me grab today's sauce. And we should be good to go. Having Battlefield withdrawals? Yeah, I mean, admittedly, I was also like sitting here being like, hey, like, I have a little bit of time. What do I play? And I just like sat there just watching Ash play Street Fighter instead while I ate my dessert. Yeah, everything should be working. We should be good. Alrighty. Hello, chat. Here is today's artwork. If I can pull open the right screen. There we go. It is a fantastic Laratoria by Aguno. I think it's Aguno that you say the name. Cut ropes and went to hunt Waverdown. I mean, yeah. Now we're gonna talk about all the buffs today. I wanted to talk more Nasu and Takeuchi with you guys today. But I did not have the opportunity to. I get everyone to see. Yep. Yeah, I think I put mine up a while back. So I was just confirming that with them. We literally have like 2 straight days now of the same hunting quest. And maybe I didn't catch that when I was doing my review, but usually it's only the final day is 2 days, and this one is not the final day. So I don't know what's going on. I don't know if like each one of them is 2 days from here on out. I'd have to go double check, but definitely a bit of a weird one. Behold my composition. How's the weather down here? It's been pretty hot. So part of the reason that I didn't have like I didn't have the time to like transcribe more of the stuff is because I decided I was going to take my car in today. I didn't take my car in last year. I don't drive my car a super ton, but I do like the word I'm looking for. I do drive it regularly. So like it gets like day-to-day wear and tear, but it doesn't get like long distance tear, right? So I take it in to get serviced, and like I said, I had missed last year. I wanted to take it in, but like I think like I was going to, and then we got busy or something like that. So I get into the dealership, tell the guy like, hey, here's the issue that I think it is, because like basically my dad had commented on this the other day when he was riding with me on the way home from work that like he could hear my, like, it almost sounded like my drive shaft, like a whine in it coming from the back of the car. So we take it in, and I tell the guy that. He looks at it, he calls me back, and like, actually, like, even before that, so he sits me down and he goes like, okay, you're due in for your like 110 like mileage. He's like, that's a big one. And I'm like, no, it's not. The 100,000 mileage one's a big one, not the 110 one. And I had the 100,000 mileage one done 2 years ago. Like, it was not a like big deal, right? Shit, I forgot to kill her. So this is going to be a 4 turn. But basically, he starts like racking up the bill. Chat, I have never felt so much more disgusted and ripped off in my entire life. I'm dead serious. I go there, the guy's like, hey, it's gonna cost you $2,000 just for like all the standard shit. So I end up leaving the car there. Yeah, and I'm like, I guess, man, like, whatever, right? I end up leaving the car there. I end up like going to work with my dad because he was carpooling me today. And I get a call from the guy, and he starts like rattling off. Ask to see an itemized bill. Oh, I did. Everything is upcharged. Everything, right? I look at the bill. And basically, this guy on the phone, he's telling me, he's like, hey, we're going to have to replace your rear differential. $3,000 more. Hey, we're going to have to replace your brakes, a leaky gas cap, and your suspension. Another $3,000 more. And I told them, like, I'm like, I can't okay this. I'm like, let me call you back, right? Yeah, so basically I go in, like, my dad's office is right next to mine, and he's like sitting with one of my other coworkers talking about a client, and I come in there and I'm like, you're not gonna believe the call I just had. And like he was flabbergasted as I was explaining it to him. So then it comes to be lunchtime. And like, the thing I told my dad too is like, my dad was like, go Kelly Blue Book your car. My car is a 20-year-old car, chat. It's old, okay? I have a 2006 Toyota 4Runner, and it is still worth about $8,000, which is a testament to like how good that year is and the lack of mileage I have on it. So it's worth about $8,000. The bill is gonna be $8,000. Oh, you have a dinosaur? No. Okay, chat. Does anyone else here drive a Toyota? If you drive a Toyota, you know exactly what I mean when I say those cars are made really quality. They don't actually like die out, right? Like, straight up, I have been getting maintenance done on it every single year. Last year was the first year I missed it. Seriously, like every single year for as long as I've had the car. So the guy's like sitting there and he's like, okay, yeah, the bill's gonna come out to be about $8,000. I'm like, you realize that totals the car, right? Like, you're charging me for a problem that has not manifested yet. That is to say, like, I can still drive this vehicle, and you're saying it's going to cost all this stuff. So basically, my dad calls up one of our clients who does like some body work on like repos and secondhand stuff. He's not really like a full-blown mechanic in that regard, but he's more of like a refurbishing guy. And he tells us to go check this other mechanic. So we call him up, and the mechanic's like, yeah, if it's your rear differential, he's like, it'd probably cost about $3,300, and all in total like $4,000 for the maintenance. So I'm like, holy fuck, they're coming in cheaper. I was like, how are they actually coming in cheaper despite me feeling like I'm getting just completely hosed, right? And to be fair, that may just be the actual price. They may be really like close to price point, On the replacement part, that's a big deal because they know that's not where to milk you. They milk you on the smaller tchotchke stuff, right? They milk you on the nickel and dime things that you don't actually have to get done all that often, and they milk you on the service. So I'm sitting here and I'm just like, I end up like getting to lunch because that second opinion is just like, it's terrible. My dad like basically dropped me off back at home so I could take care of the dogs and eat some of the soup that I had for lunch. And he's like, just think about it. He's like, think about what you want to do. And I'm like, yeah. And I'm thinking about it. And like, he gets back in the car and I'm just like, I still don't really have an answer. It's like, this is so much money. I don't know what to do. And he's like, well, why don't we head on over there? And then we're talking more in the car, and like, he comes up with the idea, and I kind of agree with him. He's like, let's pay the $5,000. So it's like, don't do the suspension, because one, the suspension's not having any issues as far as I can tell. Don't do the leaky gas cap, because that's such a like bullshit thing, and my gas cap is not leaking at all, despite their claim. So basically, we get in there, and the guy's like, okay, here's the actual total. Oh, sorry. No, I skipped this part here, chat, the story. So I get in the car. He starts heading out to the dealership, and I get on the phone. The dealership is about 15 minutes away from my house. Chat, I get on the phone with the guy. But I don't get on the phone with the guy. I get on the phone with the dealership and get put on hold. I am on hold for so long. We walk up to the guy's desk with him eating his lunch, not taking the phone call. And I'm like, I've watched the guy, his eyes like bugged out as we walked up because he did not expect us to show up there. And he's just like slowly like closed the lid. He was having like Chinese food or something. He just slowly closed the lid and moved it to the side and then turned to talk. And I'm like, yeah. So it was funny too, because my dad was like, do you want me to come in with you? And I was like, you know what? Yeah. And he's like, okay, I'll come in. And like, I did like all the talking and everything too. But my dad pitched in at like one point. It was perfect. Because basically my dad just asked him the simplest question about like, hey, what's the actual price on that? And the guy had to go look it up. My dad basically saved me a good $500 off the bill. Now, the problem is it's still overcharged, and I know it. I know it's still overcharged. So we still just got taken to the cleaners. But like, I told him after we got back in the car, I was like, that's why I wanted you there. I knew you were going to intimidate him. Like, just having the second person there would intimidate the guy. Because the first time it was just me. And so it's like, all of a sudden, it's like, oh, here's another guy in like business attire showing up here. He's like, they seem like they're pissed. Because I was. But yeah, I think the idea is, basically, we're going to pay that like $5,000, and it's going to suck. I should not have to pay that much. I think the amount that they're already charging me is so ridiculous that I am getting to the point where I think I'm done with car ownership to a large degree. So my dad came up with this idea, and I think I agree with him. He's like, if you try to buy a new car right now, it's going to be $1,000 car payment. He's like, yeah, I agree. It's going to be that much with the interest rates and everything the way that they are. So, literally, I would never buy another Corolla. Yeah. Literally, he's like, just drive it 6 more months. And he's like, you will literally get your value's worth out of that. And then he's like, after 6 months, interest rates are probably going to go back down, and I agree with him. I think they will, because there's been a lot of governmental pressure to get the interest rates to go down here. He's like, interest rates are probably going to go back down. He's like, milk it for another 6 months, buy a new car. And then I told him, so what my parents actually do is my parents just lease. And I think leasing is a little bit of a trap, but leasing has gotten a lot better over the years, where now you can A, lease to own, B, you can straight up not have to pay really any repairs. So all you pay, I guess, is like the initial like tires and the lease agreement payments. So the problem is you constantly have a car payment. The upside is at the end of the lease, you can buy the car and sell it back. And if the car has appreciated in value due to rising prices, that works for you. And basically, you also just you don't have to worry about those maintenance costs. Like nothing, like if anything ever goes wrong with the car, it is on them to fix it. So it's like, God, yes, please. Yeah, I'm aware, Cody. I'm saying I have not been driving and racking up the miles on the car. My Hyundai gets free oil changes for the entire lease. Yeah. But like, it's one of those deals where it's like, God, I don't know at that point what to do, but I'm kind of like, I'm done with the actual like absurdity of these like maintenance costs. They are so, oh my God, wait, which one is which? Okay, yeah. They are just so ass. And I'm like, dude, you cannot charge me more for labor than the freaking part you're putting in. Like, I'm sorry. There's a point where it feels like they're charging you the full labor cost with every single thing that you're doing. I guess I'll use a Castoria NP. It's like they're charging you the full labor cost for every single like part they're putting in. And you know full well that labor cost is rated for the like disassembly, the part, and the reassembly. Right? And it's like, okay, you know that's what's baked into the cost. But meanwhile, if they're going part to part to part to part to part, they're not disassembling and reassembling every time. And I'm just like, dude, that is just how they're fucking hosing you. Labor for cars is more than parts these days. Yeah. It's just absurd to me. Cat drives in Florida every day, sell first car. Yeah, I mean, I park my car outside. I don't think that helps it. But at least like you know, here during the evening and everything when my car's at home, I have a garage. So it's not like it's outside all day. It's just outside during like the hottest part of the day. So that is definitely an issue. But honestly, in that regard, it has held up exceedingly well. Also, chat, do I need to remind you guys that this uses event support? There are several of you that still have the event Cs up for the summer event. I will say, learn how to do basic maintenance on your car. You'll save a ton of money. So, not with Toyota, you won't. Toyota, and that's kind of what was happening here. Toyota gets very angry if you have anybody else service the car. They don't like it. They want everything to flow through them. And I hate to say it, it's like, you can see why I don't want to go through them. And to me, this isn't a Toyota issue. This is that specific dealership issue. I think that dealership is just legitimately like milking everybody. And when we called up the client of ours, he's like, oh yeah, he's like, I've heard stories. He's like, they are absolutely, that specific dealership is not doing good. Have I seen the new waiver in Arturia Faces tech? Chat. How do I put this? Everyone else is posing for what, like, I am basically going to end up explaining to you tonight. This is why I tell you guys is like, to a degree, I'm going to sit here, I'm going to give you guys all the numbers behind this. And you're going to be like, oh my God. And it's going to be amazing. But I think sometimes people get, I guess, like, bored with my videos, and people just want the quick 5-minute video released 4 minutes after the update that shows like this is now possible. And I'm like, you're right, it is now possible. I'm gonna show you just what it means, though. I have to put a message on my account to tell people to. Yeah, the first day I usually give people a pass because I understand. But after like a day or two, if people still haven't switched it over, that's why I pinged everyone. I was like, hey, just a reminder. Waiver buff is real, I called it. I mean, this waiver buff is actually like pretty much exactly what I predicted waiver would get in the end. More recently, I think people have like you guys would remember me talking about waiver getting like a quick buff. That's mostly because whenever that topic of conversation comes up, it's usually somebody asking me like, hey, what if they turned waiver into a quick support? So it's me humoring the idea. But if you ask me what I actually thought they were going to do with waiver, it's this exact buff. Like literally. The intake manifold gasket in question costs about $160. Yeah, like, I'm sorry. I just, like, for a big part, right, I can understand a pretty big charge, right? Like, if you're having to, like pull the whole engine block out, get it, like, the transmission or something, or do something in deep in the engine, I get it. For everything else, and to me, that's my like sticking point on this. This is how I know I got hosed, and this is why I will never go back to that dealership ever again. And I will, if anyone ever asks me, I'm going to tell everybody, do not go back there. They are snake oil salesmen, right? Because literally, chat, I have a repair to a part that is not the engine, that is not the transmission, and it is costing this much, okay? On top of all of the other tchotchke little labor that they chalked up to other things. And I'm like, nah, dude, it's just nah. It's like, there's a point where I understand, but there's a point where I just go like, no, dude, you guys are just scammers. Let's remember to do that. I gotta remember that this specific comp takes Habitrock killing herself. Makes comps more easy to pull off. Kind of. I'll explain. My Hyundai dealership wants to give me a discount on repairs that need to happen when I got a filter replacement. They gave it to me for free. Well, dude, like, so straight up, okay? Straight up, the $500 fee that my dad got them to waive was the diagnostic fee. Chat, why is there a diagnostic fee for a fucking mechanic? I want you to think about that. I want you to think about that, chat. If you go see a doctor, does the doctor charge you an additional doctoring fee? It's like, it's literally your job. Like, your job is to find out what is wrong with the car. You are a mechanic. That is why I'm bringing it to you. You shouldn't be charging me to find out. Am I supposed to bring it to you and tell you what is wrong with my car? If I knew that, why the fuck would I bring it to you? Because if I knew that, I could probably repair it myself at that point. Like, actually. And this is the thing, chat. So, this gets even worse. Because one of the things he told me is that I'm not doing the preventative maintenance. Now, chat. Like I said, every year, every single year, I have brought this in to a mechanic to get it taken care of. And while I did not bring it in the past year, I brought it into them the year before, in which they fixed my shifter. And then I paid extra for additional maintenance on the vehicle. And I called them out for it. And I said, do you have the invoice from the prior time? Because you can see that I got the shifter repaired. No, sir. I'm sorry. We switched systems. I can't see that. Are you fucking kidding me? Bullshit. So, like... My auto instructor says it costs $10K to update the scan tool. Okay. And how many cars do you think they work on a month? Because I assume you don't update the scanner more often than a month. Just saying, chat. There's certain things you don't pass on to the client. Like, also, I would just like to point this out. This entire term is kind of bullshit. Preventative maintenance is things like oil changes. Okay? I get that. Oil changes, tire rotations. All of that has been getting done on the car. So he's going, you're not doing the preventative maintenance. And I literally told him straight to his face, then what is the extra stuff I've paid you guys for? And he could tell I was angry at that point. Because I'm like, you're telling me it hasn't been done. And he's like, yeah, all we did was the shifter last time. I'm like, that's bullshit. I'm like, I brought it into you guys. I expected you to take care of it. And you're basically telling me you didn't. Like, don't get me wrong. I'm not going to argue that, like, car repairs aren't expensive, chat. The most expensive cost to my car I've ever had prior to this, because I've not had any accidents, I haven't had to get any body work done, was $1K, chat. Okay? $1K. And that was for the shifter. So to go from several bills of like 500 or under to 1K to 8K is like exorbitant to me. You know, they became possessed by greed. Yeah, I don't believe it. I'm sorry. And a fucking $500 diagnostic on an already $8,000 bill where you know the client is pissed and you know the client is sensitive to this. And I had to argue with you to get you to reduce that and waive it. And it's like, what? Did your engine shit itself? Yeah, that's... Like I said, I know the cost of repairing my car. I know prices have gone up a little bit. I was expecting maybe like a $2,000, but it was $2,000 just for them to check it basically and run the normal, like, quote unquote, preventative maintenance. And then they wanted an additional $6,000. And I'm like, nah, dude, just nah. So they got to keep my car a week because they got to order the part. I just, ugh. I am so pissed about that. AK's a new damn car. It is. That's what I was saying. Like, this literally totals my vehicle at this point. And they charge around $10 per car. See, if you wanted to say that, I would be like, okay, that's not bad. At $500 though? Bro, what the fuck? That's $500 no repair work done, chat. Like, I'm sorry, no. I'll fucking pop the hood and look at it myself and judge what needs it for $500. Like, goddamn. Like, it's easy to get caught up in the sheer scale of the cost, but I look at that and I'm like, that is literally a fucking like PlayStation, right? That they just waived the price on. My personal experience, mechanics, bicycle, motor repairs, and anything that sort are some of the scummiest. Yeah, I think and I agree with what someone in chat said. Find yourself a doctor, a lawyer, and a mechanic you can trust. And I agree with it. It's because those are the three things where they are not your expertise. Extremely so, right? And if you are naive, they can take you to the cleaners. And short of having a second opinion, there's no way to stop it. Like, it's just absurd. I wish there was a way you could take your bill and submit it to a third party and ask them if this is actually appropriate for the actual price of the parts and the service. Add a handyman to that list? No, I'm a decent handyman myself, as I'm finding out. Although I have a drain in my master bath right now that is clogging, and I think it's just due to soap scum. Because I literally got my dad's tunnel snake out there and drove it down into the thing, and it bent the tunnel snake. That thing is hard in there. These building cost is massive now. Yeah, I mean, I guess it depends on what you're trying to get done, right? If you're talking about just generalistic odd jobs around the house, you don't need someone for that. If you're talking hey man, you want actual construction, I would argue exterior painting at minimum. Interior people can paint themselves. Exterior you never want to do yourself. If you fuck up the exterior, you're gonna fuck up your house. Electrician and plumber. Depending on the gravity of the issue, I agree. Simple electrician and simple plumbing, not probably incapable or beyond the scope of what someone can do. The second, for instance, I'm considering calling a plumber on this. I'm gonna get my dad to come check it with me probably this next weekend, and if he can't help me with it, it's plumber time. I'm not gonna sit there, but right now I've just been showering in the guest bath because I don't want to use it and make it worse. To add insult to injury, mechanics shops get discounts from auto stores. I think about 20%, so they overcharge a lot. Yeah, I agree. And that's what I assume when we ask the third party. It's probably that it's a Toyota proprietary piece. And so for him to order the part is more expensive as a third party versus a actual Toyota dealership. But there are other Toyota dealerships I can take the car to, and that's exactly what I'll do. I will not go back to that one again. And when he hands me that invoice, I am sure as fuck saving this one. Oh man, I am saving this one, chat. Chat, how long do we have until the storm pod free usage goes away? On the grand score? A day? Let me see. I should be close, but I've been like nat APing it. Do-it-yourself electrician. Yeah, when I say like simple stuff, so I've considered doing it for like my ceiling lights in the kitchen that I'm having issues with, because that's probably just like, it's probably a connector issue. That's probably not too difficult for me to check, but because I need an electrician for my front doorbell and my front light that's outside, I'm just like, I don't care to fix that. I'm just gonna get an electrician and have them fix it all. But I think, like, with regards to an electrician or a plumber, chat, it is a lot more difficult for them to actually, like, milk you. I'm not going to say they can't. I'm just saying it's probably a lot more difficult for them to get away with it. But some of this stuff, man. Oh yeah, I think I am done. Wait. Did you have to complete both to get this? Or is this just for extra 2? This is just extra 2. Electricians and plumbers get you by the hour. Yeah, and I'm going to say, as long as you know what your issue is and you're upfront with them about like how long it's going to take, like I said, I can't imagine they can get you for very much. But you need to do 50 runs of each also? Oh, there's still one more. Ooh, just enough. I had probably done one run too many, if that. There we go, chat. Double X complete. Are my command seals back yet? Yes, they are. Is this gonna be a... Chad, is this another multi-break bar? Yes. This one could be hard. I think I'm just gonna go into it expecting to use command seals because I don't really have the time nor care to think about this. This one was somehow easier for me. I mean, it could just be the difference in like what you're fighting, right? But the other one I did, I had to use command seals, like for the extra one. Now, part of it was I went in unprepared, but I also just went into this kind of unprepared. So hold it right there. I saw the Okitan cursed costume Madge. What do you mean? Oh, like someone on the support list had it? Dude, I wouldn't even see it. I'm pretty sure my eyes just like completely remove it. But if it's someone on my friends list, I can get rid of them. See, I starts out at full, immediately bricks the protective unit. Easier? I don't. What part of this seems easy? Fun interactive gameplay. It's just the one turn. I guess I'll just use it. Probably she's gonna get drained on the back end. I use Atlas to ignore this part. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, this is what keeps killing me is without a guide, this fight actually just kind of hard fucks you. And it's like, I could back out and do it again, but I also just don't want to waste the time. So like, what is that damage? It's stupid. Like, I hate mechanics like that, where the boss basically like turn one just insta-gives you, because it's kind of akin to, hey, you lose, get good, scrub. We played you because you simply didn't have like foreknowledge. I mean, I could not take an Oberon, but she also just kind of spams NP. I think I did double Proto Merlin. I have yet to see a Proto Merlin Grand. Like I have not seen anybody on my friends list that has one. Like, there's Torak, I could take him, but All of FGO's challenge is foreknowledge. I wouldn't agree with that. I would say like a good chunk of the game, you can look at the class and you can kind of like strategize a comp. I do agree though, at least in the sense of like, is it a single target fight or is it an AoE, usually boils down to like foreknowledge. But I feel like sometimes they hit you with mechanics like this and it's just like, yeah, it makes you feel like a fool for trying to do it with no prep. Or not really no prep, but like no foreknowledge, right? Like no, hey, I have a guide pulled up on the side. What class am I taking if it's a question mark fight? Yeah, that is like, to me, that's one of the ones where it's just like, yeah, you're just screwed. There's nothing you can do about that. But do you know like Monte Cristo work? Depends. I don't know if she cleanses herself or not. I can't even turn 1 MP, actually. God. So actually, like, cancerous. Things like this just make you sigh and back out. Yeah, I agree. And like I don't think that's good or fun. Like I don't mind like break bar effects being nasty and stuff, but it's like, dude, this is a turn 0 effect. I really don't like some of those debuffs that she has on her right now. But this is also one of those ones where it's like, I feel like if I don't use this, I'm just going to not be able to kill. But yeah, I think this just boils down to like turning this into a stall fight of sorts. Swear to God, if that's an instant charge. She's emoting, chat. It's just not fun. Like, it's just not fun, chat. She's Zora farming. I mean, yeah, she's just sitting there, like talking to you. It's almost like you're psychic. You know, I could claim that, but it would be untrue. I could claim that I'm psychic, but let's be honest, I'm not. You like anybody could predict this in FGO. Odds are, when you see a break bar, it is a full charge. Like, I'd wager it happens 50% of the time. The other 50% of the time, you get 99% of the other mechanics. If I'm lucky, she'll full charge me. But I don't think I'm lucky. I also like how like there's one break bar action and then a second, and the second is the full charge. We go across the whole time since they were introduced, but the past couple of years, probably. Oh no, I think if you go across the entire time since they've been introduced, like it was one of the very first break bar mechanics that they put in. Like I'm pretty sure if you go back to Shinjuku, you will find that one of the fights has a full break bar effect. This is the arts resist turn anyways. Sucks though, because no cards or anything here to try to get to another NP. And before absurd Olga stack wipe. Did she heal you? Yeah, kinda. Oh, I also have buff block. Fun. I am really surprised that she did not insta-gib the one Proto Merlin. Holy card RNG. Yeah, we basically got the same cards on the third and fourth turns, which it is the start of a new sequence, so it can happen, but it's just like buff block is not there anymore. Oh, I don't know. I actually didn't check. I completely forgot about it already. My brain is just on autopilot now. But it looks like it's not, yeah. Or if it is, it didn't affect it. I have the stars on the cards I want anyways, so... Which one of you did this? Oof. Invuln Pierce, man. The worst part is like, oh, let me put up my invuln. She invuln pierces. The worst part is as well as I'm pretty sure breaking the bar here causes her to instant charge again. She's gonna kill everyone. I know. That's at this point I'm just like I'm kind of over this because I think like this is just a fight that kind of begs to be sealed depending on like who your grands are. I had nothing that I could do to stall either way. I could basically have just not popped the bar here, but she probably killed MHX regardless. This fight looks like hot ass. It is. Like, I actually, due to the restricted lineup, I've not been a big fan of the grand fights in general. Like, some of them felt like they were okay. Like, to me, the first two grand fights felt fine. And since then, the Lancer and extra fights have felt like just kind of dumb and bad. I can probably get some mileage out of this. Extra run was easy with double mash. Not if you didn't grand mash. Like, part of it's just I don't want to like spend all day on it, so I'm just like content just using seals and getting to like covering content that actually matters right now. But like this is just kind of a bummer to me. I don't like that this is happening, but I also don't want to spend the time to make it not happen, if that makes any sense. Everybody else got their crap bricked for a turn. Talking about the CQ for the extra 2C, that's exactly what we're doing right now. Well, at least it's all Olga. Problem is, this is definitely seals now. Also, did she drain me back? Do I go for the NP? Or do I go for the 50% buster up? So the choice is bust her up this turn. And then that next turn. Or NP into NP. And I think the MP into NP is more damage. So question is, does she actually kill here? Not I don't kill, but does she kill me? I don't think she does because the guts. Usually 2 beats 1. Yeah. I mean, what convinced me is that it's the NP with triple buster chain in both cases, so. Damn. Wait. Dude. Actual cancer. Fuck, man. So the good news is she did not guts pierce me. So I do have that. The problem is I don't get an extra turn due to having invuln. I literally sat on the invuln the entire fight and it was completely worthless because I never had an appropriate opportunity to use it. So she wins, and this is a triple seal. Oh, didn't matter. Okay, game. Oh, rip. Wow. Yeah. You have the cleanse? I know. I just I did not. I noticed the confusion stack. I did not see the buff block go on. I just don't like it. It's weird. I feel like I crave a challenge. I don't crave bullshit. If that makes any sense, chat. And I get deeply upset when stuff like this happens. So, by the way, fun fact, if for any of you guys that watched me playing Battlefield 6 this weekend, the entire time I was ranting about it, and I kept saying it just didn't feel fun, and how bullshit it was that my shots weren't hitting, and how bullshit it was that people were one-shotting me. The devs came out today and said, yeah, that was true. All of that was happening. Fun fact. So it's I guess I'm tired of getting gaslit by people too at the same time. I'm tired of everybody sitting there telling me the game is perfect, it's so good, CAD. I'm somebody that's played a lot of shooters over the years. I know when a game is playing well and when it's not, right? Like, and so it's like when people tell me that a game is perfect and I've experienced the polar opposite of that, I'm like, so I'm at the point where it's like, I'm just going to start like calling people out for it. I understand. And let me state this, chat. I understand it's a beta. I understand that people are happy that they fixed the mechanics and that like they're back to the old Battlefield formula. And so they want everybody to like it. But I'm going to say this, you do yourself a disservice if you gaslight people into like, oh, it's perfect, right? It's just, was it cheating or bad mechanics you encountered? Honestly, as far as I could tell, because again, there's no kill cams, right? So like, I can't really see cheating happening. You almost have to like be one of those idiots on Twitter self-reporting. There were several people on Twitter that were like, oh my God, guys, look at me pop off in Battlefield. And it's like, dude, it's a clear aim bot. Like you see a guy like, oh, there's somebody in like completely opaquely clouded in smoke. And the guy snaps to them, shoots them, gets headshots. And you're like, yeah, oh, okay, you saw him there. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I think there was another one of the one like Catboy VTuber where he goes, oh, I snapped to the guy behind the wall. Oops. And you're like, you don't snap to a guy you can't see behind a wall unless you're wall hacking and aimbotting. Like, I'm sorry. But yeah, it's like, as far as I could tell, I didn't encounter cheating. I think there was one point where I think I did, because I think I got killed by a dude that was like super jumping. But beyond that, I never really saw it. Prove he wasn't using one. Yeah, they always want you to prove. They're like, okay, prove I was using one. It's like, well, we can't. You literally didn't record the overlay portion of it, which is the part that you can see that is overlaying on your screen that has the wall hack info and stuff like that. But no, I'm dead serious. And I'm going to say this again to anybody that is a big Battlefield fan. I do actually feel like the fundamentals of Battlefield 6 are there. Just please do yourself a favor and don't overglaze that game. If you do, you are setting everybody up for disappointment, frustration, and they'll just think negatively of you in the end. That you were the one sitting there telling them, oh, this game is perfect, I love it, it's so amazing, you gotta play it, bro. Like, we'll see. I'll play the second beta, but I honest to God, I think like the vast majority of my time, I did not have fun playing Battlefield 6. And ironically enough, the most fun I had with it was Sunday off stream. I started like running around with my C4 out as the sniper. That was fun. I started like, so apparently your C4 actually like regenerates on a like timer. It's not a like you gotta kill people. It's not a I think you have to damage. I think if you damage it comes back faster. But like basically it just automatically replenishes itself eventually. So I started using it to like check around corners. I started using it to like throw up into buildings, and it started making it like so much more fun. I literally was a demolitions expert first and a sniper second, and it worked so well on some of the like urban maps where you basically can't snipe. These days, people don't know the definition of beta. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, I understand to a degree that it's a beta. My big gripes, and you guys can tell me if I'm wrong, okay? But I literally wrote them in VIP earlier today because I was just like, hey, like, look, it's got some problems, right? And as is typical at this point, somebody's always trying to gaslight and tell me that I'm wrong on this stuff, so it is what it is. But so literally I said the spotlight on the sniper needs to be like 80% reduced. And don't worry, chat, I'm not going to talk about this very long. It needs to be about 80% reduced. There was points where, or replaced with a different mechanic. There were points where, like, chat, so if here is the ground, right? Like let's say here is a ledge. Like my hand is the ledge and then there's a slope. I am lying back here. I am looking straight out, but I'm scoped in. So if I'm back here, people that are down here, like, I don't know if you guys can see that, but like all the way down here at like the base of the slope could see me. Only when I scoped. That's how big and bright the searchlight function is on the scope. That, like, there was a point, chat, where there was like a rock in front of me. I am behind the rock. I scoped in and I had like a tank start shooting at me. I'm completely behind the rock. He could not hit me. But he could see my light. That's how stupid they've designed that mechanic. C4 simultaneously had such a good throw range and I always just fell short of what I need. I think that's partially because the tanks had, it felt like the vehicles had way too much health. Part of that, I think, is just too that there was constantly people repairing every vehicle, which will not be a thing in normal Battlefield. Like you will have people repairing, but like you're not gonna have like 3 people constantly running behind a tank because everybody's trying to get the challenge for repairing vehicles done, right? The second one was, I said time to kill in general is way too fast. And I truly mean this, chat. Hi, sniper player here. If your time to kill is as fast as my time to kill, the game is fucked up. The only exception I would accept for that is shotties. That's the only exception. A shotgun should be about as fast to kill somebody as a sniper rifle headshot. If you're using an assault rifle, a submachine gun, a heavy machine gun of any sort, and your time to kill is as fast as a sniper rifle's, there is no fucking point to playing anything else. It should not be a like 2 or 3 shot kill with an assault rifle to kill someone. I'm sorry. That's absurdly fast. And a gun that is just going like, brrr, just firing out bullets constantly. You are dying so fast, there's no time to react, there's nothing. And like I said, the devs confirmed part of this is people were actually getting one shot because apparently it was like packet combining damage. So like on your end, you never even got any like hits registered. Like you were already dead. It was already an Omaiwa Moshindaru because it was just boom, you're dead, right? I said vehicles were way too unkillable. That I think will change though in general as you start going into like once you get out of the beta phase and you get into the proper game, there's probably going to be more ways to kill vehicles. So I've heard some of my buddies say that, and I kind of agree. I think that one will resolve itself eventually. I did say revives need to be incentivized better in some way. I know that that's how it's always been in Battlefield. But COD brains can't comprehend help teammate. So it is what it is. If we want people to actually revive people, incentivize it a little bit better. Bro, where are my fucking medics? Yeah, I mean, there were entire matches where, like, I had to just go medic because either nobody was medicing, or even if there was a medic, the medic had, like, blinders on and literally only shot people. Like, never tried to ever revive, right? COD players will be gone for a month. I don't think they will. And I'm going to tell you why. Unfortunately for you Battlefield fiends, I don't think COD's doing hot. I think like they're gonna rush out the next COD. It's yet another Black Ops. It's gonna suck, and I think people are going to leave temporarily to check that out, and come back to Battlefield. That's my earnest opinion. I think that is where that will end up. I said scopes need far more range. I'm sure that'll be a thing eventually, but the fact of the matter was the starter scope was 6 times, and that was the highest scope in the entire game. Which is what? Huh? 6 times was abysmal, dude. It's so low that you're scoped in on another point, and the person still looks like a tiny little toy soldier off in the distance. And I said this, chat, you can agree with me or disagree. This is coming from a point of experience of multiple other shooters I've played. Battlefield 6 had the worst out of any I have ever played base weapon performance. So unupgraded, those weapons are hot garbage. Hot garbage. As evidenced by the big portion of the stream where I was just ranting about the fact that I couldn't hit the broadside of a barn with one of the assault rifles. Right? It took me all the way until I got the second grip upgrade before finally it felt like I was an actual soldier. Somebody that had been trained with a weapon. Otherwise, it was like Papega aim. So, I said base weapon performance needs to be about 50% better performance. And they can balance that how they want. But, the base weapon capability was so bad that you just felt like you were being hard penalized for daring to try out something new. Right? So they could sell early upgrades for money. Dude, if they start selling upgrades for money, I think a lot of people will quit. I did say, in general, I've noticed they've codified. And I don't mean codified, chat. I mean codified map design. If you know what this means, you're probably a sniper. COD maps, and now to an extent Battlefield 6 maps, have completely interrupted sight lines so that you can't snipe them. I understand people don't like snipers, but if you make the game anti-sniper, it's just a pain in the ass for anyone to play that play style. So you're basically just increasing the odds of them quitting the game. It becomes incredibly frustrating where you get up in a roost and there's just a wall blocking you. Or oh my God, now you finally have gotten to the point where you can see a lane and there's multiple little things blocking the lane so that you have a pinhole window to shoot through. So I get it. I understand people don't want to die to snipers, but I'm going to tell you 2 things. So for instance, the Ridge map, chat. I heard people bitching about snipers the entire Ridge map. I didn't really have a problem with enemy snipers on the Ridge map. Is that because I was a sniper? No, actually, when I did try to counter snipe them, that's when I had a problem. If I was playing short range or mid range on the Ridge map, I didn't have a problem with snipers because I stuck to parts of the map where I knew I wouldn't get shot. That is how old school players played against snipers. Just don't give them a sight line to kill you. People go, man, I hate snipers, while they're sprint fucking through the field in the wide open going oh God, I hate snipers. And it's yeah, of course they shot you in the face. You're wide open. Stick to cover. Holy crap. So I understand people are man, I don't like snipers. No, Cad, they need to put stuff up to block it. I disagree. I think that's a skill issue. I think if you're just running out into the open, you're fucking up and you're giving the sniper a chance to kill you. Meanwhile, if you actually do create proper lanes for a sniper to shoot down, 2 things occur. 1, you know to look both ways before you cross the street. 2, you also know that if you cross at that point, you take the risk of the sniper, and therefore you either have to go deal with the sniper or you have to take that chance. I like that design. I think that's fine. I think if you're not doing that and you think you should have impunity to sprint through the streets as much as you want, well, welcome to Camperfield. That's how so many of you guys died to shotguns. Or like me, that's how so many of you guys died to my C4 placed expertly in a gate entrance point that everybody was rushing through. So I learned very quickly that like people were playing way too aggressive in a lot of those maps, and you could punish it. You could absolutely punish it. So like I said, they just don't need to do that. They need to create maps that have their points of close quarters, also have their open lanes. Good map balance is keynote to any of these games. And then probably my chief and biggest problem here was, and I think a lot of this was due to the beta and the poor performance of the beta due to the number of players, but I had several, what I like to call this, chat. If you ever hear me screaming about it, you know what this means. No reg. That means I put a bullet through the person's body or their skull, and I got no registered hit. Multiple times. Multiple times. No reg needs to never be a thing. If I put a bullet on the body and it's not like in motion, it's not like running out of my shot before the bullet can get there, right? Like, I'm sorry, I should at least get a registered hit, right? The fact that happens so much was easily like the most tilting thing for me during the beta. And that's why I said, like, it's not playing well, guys. Like, as a veteran of multiple shooters throughout the years, if I'm getting no regs, that's a really bad sign. I should not get a no reg. Like, that means poo-poo netcode is happening right then. And then I think the only other issue that I had was smoke needs to be toned down. I don't mean smoke from a grenade. Smoke grenades are fine. I mean, general battle smoke needs to go down by probably like a good 50%. Or thermals. So thermals will probably be a thing eventually. But like, holy shit, dude. There were times like, sniper or not, there were times that like, there was, if anybody did anything, there was a massive plume of smoke. Like, oh, did that guy just shoot a wall near you? Smoke. Oh, did that tank just shoot like 30 yards away? Smoke. Like, it got to be so much that I'm like, dude, I can't see what I'm doing or where I'm going. I understand the realism aspect, but like I was talking with Prophet, and Prophet's like, yeah, apparently people are recommending turning your settings all the way down to reduce that issue. You want your game to look good, or do you want your game to run right? Take your pick. Sorry, chat. Just moving the camera over there. Sniping is always such a hot mess in FPS. Yeah, don't get me wrong. I'm a sniper by trade. I love sniping. I'm not necessarily that good at some of the other classes, okay? And that's why, like, to me, again, if they handle the balance right, it's good for everybody. If they don't, it's bad for everybody. They're probably going to add thermals. They had them in Battlefield 4 at least. Yeah. So chat, agree or disagree with me on those points? Like, am I being insane? Or are those like valid points? You can tell me. But that's why like when I came out of the beta there, I was just like, it has good fundamentals, but holy shit, does it need rebalancing? And the weird, like, I don't know if it's like netcode or server latency that was causing like no registered hits and like clumped up one-shot damage. Those were ruining a lot of the fun because it felt like there were times where you could not possibly have reacted, you could not possibly have outplayed just due to that stuff. Cat, I'm making a foul point not happening. No, I mean, like, I'm dead serious. If someone disagrees with me, I'd love to hear it. I'd love to hear the reasoning behind it, right? Like, because I felt like this entire weekend by VIP, I was getting gaslit by people. I'm sorry, it's the truth. I love the VIP people, but like, to a degree, they're all like, no, Cat, it's so amazing. Oh my God, Cat, it's perfect. I don't know why you're having an issue. Like, admittedly, then I finally got a couple of them to try Sniper, and they were like, wow, yeah, this is ass. Like, what are they doing with this? And it's like, yeah, I think that's why it was a point. Is like, to me, I'm comparing it to, like, you know, me coming fresh off of Star Wars Battlefront, me coming off of Battle Bit, which is a Battlefield, like, several, you know, COD games and things like that, as well as multiple other shooters over the years. So it's like, I know how something should feel. And when it doesn't feel that way, I have to ask myself, is it a skill issue? Am I the problem? And slowly, like Saturday, I was it was a skill issue. And it was a lack of familiarity problem. By Sunday, I was like, this is not a skill issue. And there was, like, we had several people watching me in stream that were like, ooh, good shot. Wow. Because I was streaming in Discord. They're like, ooh, good shot. Like, oh yeah, you got him there and stuff. And I'm like, yeah, like it's not a me issue. Like it's working when it works, but then it suddenly doesn't work. I don't know any other way to explain it, right? Like, any predictions for when the Wangina World Tour event is released on an A? Not till early September. We know that from the whatchamacallit, the roadmap that they handed out. Excuse me, chat. Sorry, I've been trying to like work my way over to the buff. The buff that needs to be buffed. When was I? Oh, okay. I see what I was running. So this was bonding MHX and bonding Squirtle. Oh my God, Squirtle's gonna get here. Tamamo got shafted. Unpopular opinion with Tamamo fans, but no, she didn't. Because I'm gonna say something and it's gonna shock you guys. Waver needed it more. But don't get me wrong. I think Tamamo fans don't get super ornery about this because I've seen a lot of people. So fun fact. I think I liked a tweet this weekend of it was a Castoria player. He was malding that Castoria didn't get a buff, and like legitimately, I thought it was hilarious. But like in earnest, if he actually like wasn't memeing and thought that Castoria needed a buff, bro needs to go get his head checked. Like I don't know any other way to say it, right? But like, and I'm dead serious when I say this. I saw a ton of Tamamo fans malding. Tamamo fans. Again, you're not as bad as you would have people think, right? Like, I understand Tamamo could probably use something. And like, if it had been a Tamamo buff, I wouldn't be up here complaining, right? Well, I guess I might be depending on what the gravity of the buff is. But like if they went something like insanely absurd with Tamamo, I would be like, yeah, I don't know about that, guys. But like, could Tamamo get a buff? Yeah, I think it'd be fine. And at the end of the day, I do think a buff will eventually come, right? I don't think it's a like, oh my God, you've been left to die or anything like that. Because I think when you state that, you do yourself a disservice. And allow me, chat. We had people calling Lartoria the worst SSR in the game. And what was my response? I didn't agree with them. I think they're actually like categorically insane. Because I think like no amount of looking at Lartoria's kit would have made you think that's the worst SSR. Okay? Now, with that in mind, did Lartoria need a buff? Yes. Yes. And I was right there championing that for a long time. Okay? But I think when you sit there and you make those statements, you're making your like your favorite unit that you like, that you want to get buffed, sound like they suck. So that's why I'm saying, like, you guys are doing it a disservice if you take that stance, right? It was more that they buffed Nero Caster, but not Tamamo. That I understand. I understand being upset about that. However, nice. However, I think there is a strong argument for Nero Caster to get a buff as well. When you ask yourself, what does Nero Caster do over Ask? You don't have an answer. There really isn't one. So at that point, I think like Nero Caster had just been kind of defunct and left by the wayside in place of Ask, right? So it's like giving her that, I think, matters. Now, people would argue the same thing may be true for Tamamo. I would disagree. I do not think Tamamo has been left by the wayside. I do not think Tamamo is dead in a ditch. Oh yeah, you'll see a claim. Nero was the oldest SSR in the game not to be buffed. Yeah, like I said, she was not as bad as people thought she was, because a lot of That's what happens when I get talking, chat. I get yapping and I just straight up like don't fucking pay attention to what I'm doing on the screen. I'll at least pop that. Basically, like, where was I? That totally broke my train of thought. Oh yeah, I was saying like people really weren't understanding like how decent Nero Caster still was, because a lot of people, I think, had not really noticed the Append 5 changes. And chat, I'm going to be honest with you guys. Do you know why people don't notice the Append 5 changes? Because they don't watch this channel. Because if you did, you would have watched my video where I literally talked about how Append 5 works for like every single one of the units that it can like majorly benefit, right? And I think like because people in general tune me out, and because people don't get that nitty-gritty info, they don't realize the underlying like power swings when like a meta change happens like that. They just see the like quick 5-minute demo video produced 4 minutes after the patch goes live. They don't really expand their horizons beyond that. And to a degree, I understand. Like they just want the info, they want it now. But because of that, they miss some of the things like that actually matter. So because of that change, Umu Caster can now double up her third skill. A skill that prior in the Koyanskaya system, if you were using Koyanskaya, whatever. If they were using the Koyanskaya system with Umu, they could not get back to the third skill because the third skill had a 7-turn cooldown. Now with the fifth Append, it's 6. Now you can double up that skill, and that skill is like what, 40% attack up, or is it 50? That you'd have to tell me because I don't remember off the top of my head. But like, yeah, I mean, I think like that's what I mean when I say that like a lot of people don't realize stuff like that. Also, everyone ignores the 5-star casters that are in way worse place than Tammy. Well, I saw somebody on Reddit trying to argue that Tamamo has literally never gotten anything. And I'm like, you're full of shit. Tamamo's had 3 buffs already. Like, Did Tamamo need those buffs? Yes. Yes, I think she did. Could Tamamo get a 4th buff? Yes. Yes, I think she could. But like, this is the same thing as like the battlefield situation. It's like, don't make a disingenuous argument because you do yourself no favor when you do. Because someone like me that's like scrolling through the comments reads that and laughs at you because I know you don't know what you're talking about, right? Like, that's the problem. You may fool the like unsuspecting idiots, but then it's like, yeah, when people do like come into my stream and stream and then like try to like spout stuff like that, I just chalk it up to nonsense and I disregard their opinion because it's not properly informed, or it's trying to like rage bait in effect. Let's do that. Skill 2 sucks on Tamamo. I don't think it sucks. I think skill 2 is pretty great on Tamamo. The issue that it is that it doesn't do a whole lot for like anyone other than Tamamo, right? I think at this point giving Tamamo like party-wide defense would be a nice change. And to be fair, chat, I actually think that's something that the game could use. I talked about this before, that with Waver falling out of favor originally and Mash in her Ortoneus outfit, the like game kind of lacked a good party support that provided defense. I do remember some people were like, Cad Janu, and I'm like, no, that's not a very reliable party-wide defense. Like, and I don't mean like her invuln. I'm talking like actual defense as a buff. Let's just do that. I would not give Tamamo MP charge. Tamamo already has MP charge on her NP. So I understand people would prefer it on a skill. That's fine. I totally get it, but no. Because Tamamo has skill cooldown reduction. So I see what you're trying to do, Tamamo fans, when you ask for that. Unlike most other people here, I have used Tamamo profusely. I know the way she works. I see that grift for what it is. You're trying to have your cake and eat it too. You're trying to have charge on the back end of the NP. Like let's say it's not, it's like 27%, but like basically you're trying to use the NP, get yourself charge, then get yourself cooldown reduction, then get yourself charge from a skill, which you would have also used on the front end here, and you're trying to create an infinite loop like that. And I want to be clear with you guys. Chat, if you want that, slap a Prisma Cosmos on her. You can already get that effect. So I can't imagine it with it, like, beyond that. Now, I say that, I say that, chat, and watch the devs do it. Watch the devs actually give her charge one day, and then I'll just be wrong, and I'll have to, like, eat my words. But it is what it is. But yeah, I think there's plenty of stuff you could give her. I think, like, without quote-unquote breaking things or, like, making her some insane, like, auto-looping support. I fear when they buff Tamamo that they'll give her a -1 cooldown in her second skill. I'll be honest with you, like... I think the second skill is what needs it. But what the buff is to the second skill could be up in the air. And if it's not going to be that, I wouldn't mind seeing a second NP interlude for some of these supports. So if I were going to change something on Tamamo's NP, I would literally change the amount of healing it does. Like, unironically. I think, unfortunately, the amount of healing some of the supports do, especially if your name is not like Merlin or Proto Merlin, ends up in the realm of relative unusability, where like it either is not useful enough because it's not max HP and therefore it can't overheal, or it's not strong enough and you're just getting outpaced and you're dying. And I think that's the unfortunate like seesaw that you see. 30% AoE charge on skill 2. No, way too much. Way too much. People don't really get just absolutely broken Tammy and P is. Proof is they don't actually use her. No, I mean, like, I think the issue is like a lot of people are stuck in their brain comparing her to Castoria. Whereas, like, a lot of the times, if I wanted to use a Tamamo, I would use her alongside Castoria. Because Castoria provides the party-wide protection. Tamamo provides the return of the skills, the healing that she lacks, and basically can kind of supplement and, like, spot heal a little bit, too, if she has to. To be honest, if Tamamo got a buff, I'm 90% certain it'd be the buff that most of the fans want. Or it wouldn't be the buff that most of the fans want. Yeah, I mean, I do agree with that. But like I said, I think there's a lot of people that want something like Charge for her, want something like they basically want her to rival Castoria. And I'm going to say, chat, that is the exact type of buff I would call them out for. I would have a major issue if they power crept Castoria. And that's not saber face bias talking, chat. That is holy shit game balance. If you power creep Castoria, who is the most used support in this game 5 years running, what the fuck are we doing? Like, it's not gonna be a good time. Like, now, would Tamamo fans be happy? Yes. Would it make a subset of units stronger? Yes. Would it be good for the game? No. Like, there would be some upsides. There would be a whole lot of downside, too. And I think the downside would be that you would end up having to, like, go through and rebalance all of the arts units due to such a change. And I don't think they can, really. Like when I say rebalance, right, chat? This isn't like an MMO where they can nerf things. This is a game in which they will get in trouble if they ever try to nerf. Therefore, they can only buff. So that means rebalancing means buffing everybody up to a level. And that gets weird. So, yeah. You already have arts units that can basically, like, refund to, like, 200 and 300%. So you would get into an era of, like, I don't really know. I can't even really fathom it, honestly. Like, because a little bit Castoria is in her own right, like, way too all-encompassing. I think, like, any aspect of her kit is not super broken. I think the only thing you could maybe argue is the anti-purge defense, aka solemn defense. But I think, like, all of this, none of this is broken. It's just like, it's like they combined different supports into this kit. So the one effects on their own are not too strong. The combination of the effects, the synergy that is there, is what makes her so powerful. You'd get more options, not just one support. I'm going to tell you flat out, you have more options. As evidenced by literally my JP account earlier, as evidenced by, again, numerous times where you'll see me using, like, an off-meta support. Okay, chat? Arguing that we only have one support option is usually a player issue. The exception is maybe Quick. Maybe. But I think, like, if we're looking at arts, for instance, chat, just within arts, you have Castoria, you have Tamamo, you have Proto Merlin. And chat. Your problem isn't here. Your problem is actually there. Proto Merlin is the arguably bigger threat to Tamamo. Proto Merlin is the reason why I'm more okay with Tamamo getting a buff. And I'm dead serious on that. If you can't understand that, I question your knowledge of Tamamo. Okay? Shufu. Johanna. mean, technically, like units like Nero Bride, Da Vinci, Waver, Reigns, Paracelsus. What's his face, chat? 1-star caster, Mozart, Asclepius. Oh, Castergill. Anybody else I've forgotten? Now Medea? Yeah, now Medea. Would you like more options, chat? Len Ling, thank you. The Shrimp Rider? Wait, who? Huh? But this is why I'm saying this. Does Tamamo maybe need to stand out a little bit better? Yeah. Yeah, and I don't disagree with that, chat. Like I said, I don't disagree that Tamamo couldn't use a buff. I disagree with some of the categorizations of her. Yui? Yeah. I don't have room on the screen. I'm sorry, chat. Now compare that to Buster Quick. Oh, you don't want me to compare it to Buster? Buster is not as much, but chat, Buster probably has like that much. Like Arts has more, don't get me wrong. Buster still has a ton. Now compare that to Quick. Quick, it basically goes Scotty, Summer Scotty, and then now we start going into like Waver, Reigns, Nero Bride. Like you'll notice we got out of the like devoted Quick support real fast. Real fast. Woo? Yeah, you're right. The unit that has like 20% quick up, some attack up, and like 10% charge. That's a quick support. Shisho is probably one of the closest, yeah. KD's a weird one. I've seen people try to like say that she's actually like a replacement for a meta support. I don't agree with that. I think like that only works in the realm of like you're profusely carding, not in the realm of like, oh, you're like relying on like charge, right? I think that sort of thing, like KD is a support for other Sakura faces. KD is not like a support that works outside of that system though. And that's what makes her a little bit of a weird unit. She's strong, don't get me wrong, but like trying to call her as like a main support, I don't know. Right? Like that's, to me, that's a weird one. And there are like a bunch of like pseudo units like that I think like they have like half a foot in, half a foot out. Wang would be one. Yeah, thank you. And like honestly, Wang is one of the like best things to happen to Quick in a hot second. I can argue that Wang had more of an impact for Quick than technically Summer Scotty. But Summer Kuro? Oh, Summer Kuro. Kuro, basically, I think you could just chalk up to like all of them. But Kuro to me is also a lot like Miss Crane, kind of, where it's like you could definitely use her a little bit more than Miss Crane. I think Miss Crane's a little bit more restrictive. But Kuro also requires a like proper and elaborate like comp setup specifically for it. And then the additional value that it provides is not like crazy, right? I'm not going to say like she's not a sport. She is. Just that like she's a little bit of a wonky one as well. Lohi now? I don't think Lohi's a support. I think like Lohi is just another part of the puzzle, as we like to see. With Quick, it feels like they're trying to make the damage dealers help. And while I understand that, this is not a system. Because if we're relying on the damage dealers, then you don't have a coherent system, chat. Why do I say that? Because the damage dealers are not a quote-unquote meta support. Like, what are these systems made of? They're made of consistent pieces, right? Like a thing where, like, even in the case of like arts, you can like kind of flip-flop the pieces. With quick and relying on a damage dealer to be part of that piece, you can do that, but then that does not work for other units, right? Like, so it becomes a weird thing. Look, a third stage kind of hurt Koyami on sport. I'm gonna be real with you. I think Merlin already did the dirty deed there. Kuro has its own system, pretty much, yeah. So it's like that's kind of one of my issues, is like, because they're doing this with some quick units, it's like newer quick units are really good for stuff like that. Older quick units? Like, man, yeah, Lancelot Berserker, Atalanta, Dantes. Yeah, I don't know about that, chat. So it's like when I start looking back at some of the other units, it's like, yes, newer units can be like part of some sort of like multi-damage dealer setup with like one or two other sports, and it works. The old units, it's a double Scotty and like some sort of like third support type of setup. Like basically the damage dealer is not a solution. It's hard to have a quick combo because they have some of the best and some of the worst units in the game. I don't know that I'd say that even. I just like, because I think every single card type has some of the best and some of the worst units, right? Like, just that, like, quick units definitely are like all over the place with their design. And I think that is reflective of the developers lacking a clear vision for quick. Like, I think they themselves have changed what they want quick to be over the years. I feel it is more of what quick as a card brings to the table than the units. What do you mean? I love answering something with a question. What do you mean? Vinheld, thank you for the follow. Do devs still fear quick? To a degree, yes. To a degree, no. Thoughts on Van Gogh? Van Gogh's very strong. Van Gogh is basically a system unto herself. And that's exactly why people do it for, like, challenge purposes, right? She's just exceedingly strong at killing challenges. Von Grailer Squirtle, thank you. I did forget. Not that it's a big deal. She's at least Bond 10 now, so that kind of relieves some of the pressure. Though, if I believe the anniversary interview, that's actual Grail, hold on. If I believe the anniversary interview, chat, it seems to me like the higher the bond you have, the more damage you get out of a unit at the final chapter. So it looks like they're doing another Solomon mechanic. Grand Van Gogh, eat Olga, yeah. Quick has more crit chance? So wait, are you saying like that's the issue with Quick, or are you saying that's its strength? This is kind of why I was asking, like, what do you mean when you say like it's more about what it brings to the table? So it's really funny because if they do a 6 enemy wave, this does allow Quick some leniency, but it also allows arts to become stronger. Because the arts looper on a 6 enemy wave starts getting to like 200 and 300% overcharge. So it's like, it's a really weird like problem. It's like, now we've enabled Quick's refund a lot better. Meanwhile, arts is like, yes. So, Deontay, why would your units only be bond 10 forever? Why not just use a bond grail? Like, you eventually get 30 courts out of it. Like, there's no harm in using it. There's no downside to it. I'm in A, so I'm not familiar with other quick DD and JP. Yeah, I get it. And I feel like that's the reason Quick doesn't shine as a system, not refund a lot of arts. Yeah, I mean, I think if we look at it like analytically, Quick feels like it gets the short end of the stick. I know a lot of people, especially like min-turner people, that feel like Quick is actually the best system. And this has to do with the fact that a lot of people will go like a Quick MP into arts and buster. My contention is that they're kind of making a mountain out of a molehill. Like, don't get me wrong, is this a nice thing? Yes. Yes, it is. But is it like a huge difference from, say, like AQB, where the arts is the NP, or BQA, where this actually helps the buster unit refund on the back of it? I don't think it's that big of a difference. I think like they each have their strengths, I guess is the way I put it. And so it's like, to me, don't get me wrong, I think it could be valuable, but I also think it's like kind of overhyped. So what it tells me is that like one section of the community thinks that Quick sucks. The other section of the community think that Quick is like ascendant, right? And that tells me that's just polarizing. It's like in between. You have some people that like legitimately think Quick is bad and will never touch Quick. And you have some people that think Quick is too OP and that like they better not do anything else for Quick. It's weird, but it is what it is. And let me state this. I don't necessarily think, like, if you think Quick is bad, I don't necessarily disagree with you. Because while I also don't agree with the Quick as Ascendant crowd, I also don't necessarily, like disagree with the crowd that's, like saying, hey, there's some problems here, right? I think Quick needs stuff. I think, and to me, the biggest thing that I think Quick needs is better options. Like, straight up. And I've been asking for that for years, so... And some people would say like, oh, that's where the damage dealers are coming in as the solution. And I'm like, yeah, kind of. I think Quick needs actual better like support options. I straight up, like, the wider you make Quick's options, the better it is as a system, naturally. The same thing is true for arts. The same thing is true for buster. The more options you give, the more tools there are to play with, and the more Quick-centric tools there are. So it makes things easier. Like, for instance, chat, if you have a Quick Merlin, all of a sudden now you have a sustain support that Quick kind of lacks. Quick doesn't really have somebody and has to go rob another, like has to go rob Proto Merlin or Merlin if they want like that sustain environment for themselves. And then naturally those two are not as synergistic with the Quick system. So I think like that's a point that I've pointed out to people over the years where it's like, yes, it's clear to me that Quick just lacks some of those things. It doesn't mean that it's like a bad system and that you can't perform well with it. You can. It just means that in my eyes, that is one of the reasons why I believe people feel like the system isn't up to the level of the others. Is because they are viewing it based off of that. Whereas depending on like some of the other people that think Quick is really good, they're viewing it based off of more of the like the carding side of things and more of the how should I put it? like Mighty Chain, I think would be the better option. Say. I just don't like Quick having to add the whole Quick Buster gimmick. Yeah, I do agree with that. I've said that is a sign of weakness of Quick, that it has to rely on Buster. I completely agree with that statement. In the same way that I think like Arts having to rely on Buster is a weakness, Buster having to rely on quicker Arts is a weakness. But I think you're right, at least to a degree, that Quick seems to have to do it more. Right? Okay, chat. Let's go over some buffs. Till tomorrow. Okay, so chat, we're probably going to do 2 recordings here. Actually, let me... I'm just checking the recording. I know I look like an idiot, chat, but I'm just trying to see, is it getting like all jittery and stuff? A little bit of like frame drops here and there, but it's not like impossible. Well, what are the easy ways to tell us to just sit here and do this? I don't think it's bad. Worried about the camera, looks okay. I'm worried about OBS in general. I don't know why, but for some odd reason, when I record, OBS is like doing some shenanigans here. So ippy would it be? Nobody wants to go to the route like to the base route of fandom. Okay. So what did we have? Over the weekend we got that, and that. Actually, just gonna go ahead and close waiver. I'm gonna save waiver for last, chat. So what I think I'm gonna do, and chat, you can agree with me or not. I think I'm gonna do the first 3 buffs as one video, and then I'm gonna do waiver as its own. Agreed? Sorry, I have to dig through here because me and Avalon had a lot of discussing about waiver specifically. Time wait for tomorrow to find it, to find it, to find it. Avalon didn't send me a number. He may not be available right now. I may have it anyways. I'm seeing if I can cheat. I forgot he is one of the ones. Waver's buff is big, but it's not as big as some people make it up to be. Disagree. Really? Okay. All right. I don't need it. Okay. What the hell? Oh, chat, real quick. Just because I'll forget if not. Daily roll. Damn. Feels bad. It's not a double for you? Why would it be a double? I missed one? Huh? What? Oh, what? You missed one. I don't. I don't think I did though, chat. Because I rolled. I remember you mentioning you weren't sure if you'd done your roll a few days ago. No, I don't remember that. Maybe I did. I don't know. That's just weird to me. Yeah, the thing I'm thinking is like maybe day 0 I didn't. Did I do it on Sunday? Yes. Yeah, to my knowledge, I have not forgotten. Okay. I'm gonna get it pulled up here, chat. Oh, wait, hers is the actual MP buff, yep. And then the Shakespeare. Wait, what was Shakespeare's buff again? This one. Dude. This makes me laugh so much. This buff. Like. This one as well. Okay. Hey guys, my name's Kadroth, and today I'm going to be talking to you about the remaining strengthening buffs that happened during the anniversary here over the weekend. So, honestly, a lot of these buffs are really, really solid. There's only one I'm going to leave out for now, and that's just Waver, because Waver's buff is a bit different than the others, and a little bit more to talk about with his. So we'll split him out into his own video that you guys will be able to find pretty shortly here. But for now, we're going to go over Umu, basically Caster Umu, Darius, and William Shakespeare are the 3 buffs that are going to be in this video. So starting off with Umu here, I think this is a really interesting choice. We had 2 SSR casters that could have been up for it. One went to Waver, and I'm not surprised by that. I think Waver did need the buff, and we literally have... at least in my mind, I thought at least one support was going to get the buff. So not surprised to see them split and see them, choose Caster Umu here for another one, because out of some of the other damage dealing casters, while Caster Umu was not weak by any means, Caster Umu's primary competition was basically the likes of Ace, and also potentially to a lesser degree units out there like Caster Ku, and potentially even Tiamat kind of invading into the niche. So it is what it is. Is the face cam that bad? Yes. Okay. Okayest. You're signed to download the VOD. I'm sorry. I don't know why this is happening. I gotta get to this, but this is yet another one of my things. Oh, now there's Avalon. There he is. I was gonna ask you for Spartacus numbers, but I don't need them. I saw. I just needed to know for talking points, but we're good. Okay, so we'll go ahead. We'll start off again here. Hey guys, my name's Kadroth, and today I'm going to be talking to you about the servant strengthening buffs that happened over the weekend for JP's anniversary. Now, I will be splitting Waver off into his own video. His is a little bit more different and kind of a little bit more important than these, but essentially, we're going to be covering the Caster Umu, the Shakespeare, and the Darius buffs that happened. Now, starting off with Caster Umu here, we did have 2 5-star caster slots available. I'm not surprised to see a support get one of them. I'm also not surprised that it was Waver. He was somebody that kind of needed it after a long period of time. And so then you start considering maybe another damage dealer, and Caster Umu is one of the ones that really comes to mind here. I don't think she was weak by any stretch of the imagination, but I think her primary competition being Ace, Caster Ku, and to a degree, Tiamat had really kind of hurt her. Now, the 5th Append had been rolled out in 9th anniversary on JP, and that actually really did help Caster Umu, because her 3rd skill became double uppable in a, double Koyanskaya setup due to this. Something that prior to that point, it had not been capable of doing. This definitely helped out her damage a little bit there, but I think the devs took a look and they said, she's still behind Ace. She's still kind of failing in competition to some of the other people. Let's give her a proper buff. Because to me, and I do agree with this assessment by the developers, assuming that's what they did, is that Caster Umu, outside of really this skill with a targetable guts, doesn't really do anything else. There's no niche that she has where she really stands out. She is just a solid AoE damage caster, but doesn't really have any means to stand out from the pack or differentiate herself. The devs say, okay, yeah, hey, you know what? A unit like that does maybe need to be dealing a little bit more damage than someone like Ace that has a lot of like super utility kind of rolling around. So the devs actually end up coming in and giving her a Noble Phantasm upgrade. And this was, I think, a long time coming. You guys can actually see, interestingly enough, she does get the standard NP interlude strengthening where NP2 becomes NP1 and NP5 becomes the new NP2. So definitely nice for her in that regard. She just had Ignore Invincibility and deals damage to all enemies. Now she still gets those same effects with that standard scaling, but she also manages to increase her own damage against enemies with the Beast attribute and Threat to Humanity by 50%, activating first. So this is a power mod. Since it is 1 turn on each of these, this means that naturally it affects the NP as well, but it can also affect things like your again, like carding and stuff after the NP. So it's definitely nice in its versatility. It's maybe not as strong as a super effective buff would have been, but it is what it is, especially given that both of these niches are not very common. So it is a at least interesting thing to see that they gave her 2 instead of just 1. Usually giving 2 niches out of nowhere hasn't happened very much over the years, though I can think of a couple of instances where it has happened. But on top of that, they end up adding in an additional effect that charges the party's NP gauge by 10% after the NP. To be honest, I don't actually feel like the party-wide charge is that big of a deal. I think the major breadwinners here are just the standard NP interlude for strength, as well as some niches. But at the end of the day, who knows? That may be something that helps her out on the back end, especially if you manage to like Brave Chain her or something into a Mighty Chain, try to get some NP on the back end to help her out, and you never know. That sort of thing could really, really end up helping her. So let's take a look now at Summer Umu's buffs before and after damage here. These are neutral, so these are basically her against a neutral target. These are also self only, so no external buffs coming from like a support caster or anything like that. So basically, Summer Umu under her own power here, as you guys can see, her original damage out here was the 23.8k there at NP1, 31.8k at NP2. And you can see the new normal over here on the right is the 31.8k. So that is the NP2 number becoming NP1. But now we also add in the threat and beast niches. Unfortunately, those aren't going to be necessarily something that you're going to see too often, but there is the possibility of combining them both. So that is a potential deal there for you as well. So it's not a like huge upgrade, but I think they just said, hey, look, let's try to catch her up. You guys can see these would be Caster Umu's numbers in a sort of old format with her old damage output pre-NP interlude there. You guys can see that she has the 2x Koyan Sky of Light Oberon. She has level 100 Cranking as her best C and being anti-man due to, again, Koyan Sky of Light. So now on screen, we have the new numbers for her, and you can see there is a nice sizable bump up over the old numbers here. Old NP1 basically was at 251. New is at 335. So this is basically her with her 5th append there. Double Queen Sky Oberon still level 100 cranking. So none of the support setup has changed. The only thing that's changed here is the actual NP interlude and now the addition of new power mods. Plus, you can also get man attribute from Koyan Sky, so you're definitely going to have the potential to at least combine maybe one or multiple of these. And that's going to really, really help out her damage. You can see she's at that base 335. Definitely a nice one. Definitely something we like to see. And at NP2, she'd be all the way up at 419. Now, if we look at Ace in comparison, Ace still edging her out, still kind of the better unit, but this does make Summer Umu a lot more competitive with Ace. In that regard, I think I may be a little bit disappointed in the buff because it probably should have put Ace beyond, or Summercaster for Umu a little bit beyond Ace, but it is what it is. So at the end of the day, I think that's just one of those things where like Ace is such a strong and synergistic unit, and Ace can touch Black Grail. So this is just naturally going to be one of those things that you'll encounter where there will be issues. But I do like this buff for Umu. It's just, to me, could have been maybe a tad bit stronger, but still a very, very, very solid one. Now, compared to someone like Tiamat, this is going to end up being one of the problems. Tiamat can manage 487 by wave 3. Now, you might be thinking, like, okay, like that's absurd. That's way stronger. But keep in mind, Tiamat is a alter ego, so you've got the 1.5 times modifier on her at that point. So at least in that regard, if you're looking at like Summer Umu against an actual effective unit, she would be doubling her number. So you'd be looking at a little bit shy of 700k for her. Meanwhile, Tiamat kind of around that same ballpark. So what this actually does is it brings her a little bit more in line with Tiamat, though still maybe losing to Ace outright. Kucaster as well, definitely another interesting one. Now, where I think the issue will be for her is if you have that NP5 Kucaster, he is still going to win. So this is a nice buff, but to me, you can see why between Ace and Kucaster being her primary competition, maybe a little bit outside with Tiamat, why I feel like this buff, while nice for her, stops a little bit too short. I think they maybe needed to do a little bit more with her, give her a little bit more firepower to kind of help her pop off a little bit better. If you've managed to have her niches, she'll be fine. But if you don't have those niches, she's going to kind of just end up being the inferior option to a couple of these others. So again, let me know what you guys think about the Caster Umu buff and whether or not you think they did a good job with it. Next up here, we have Shakespeare. Now, Shakespeare's a rather interesting one. He has honestly been, for a while, a pretty decent low-star sport. He has charge, he has hard survival, and he has a party-wide steroid for 1 turn. I maybe would have liked to have seen the party-wide steroid get some attention here from the 1 turn duration, maybe to like multi-turn or increasing it up to a solid 50%. I don't really care, but I would have liked to have seen them maybe do that. But interestingly enough, they come into his second skill. This is his hard survivability. And this is the one that I didn't necessarily expect them to give attention to. So they actually tweak it and they basically say, hey, look, now we're going to make it so that he heals the entire party's HP by, again, 1500 here. He charges the entire party's gauge as well by an additional 10%. And he increases the party's NP damage for 3 turns by 20%. So this is intriguing because in a weird way, obviously NP damage up is something that's pretty meta right now with Oberon and the Buster systems and stuff like that. But you probably aren't necessarily going to be running someone like him alongside Oberon, though it's definitely a possibility. Where Shakespeare has always been good is actually for like one-shot damage comps, so things like raids and stuff like that, where you just need that 1-turn steroid. He has been a pretty solid addition. He does also have the 20% charge for a target on his 3rd skill. So what this in effect does is this just gives him more damage amplification capability across a 3-turn duration. And then adds in party charge to round him out to a nice even 30% for one target. In that regard, this is a much, much nicer buff for him. He's not going to be one of our new 30% party chargers, but he can at least give one unit 30%, which, let's be honest, a lot of the time that's really all you need is for the one unit to get it. So it is a really, really interesting buff for him, and I do really like it in that regard. But naturally, this also does impact himself. So on screen now, you guys can see Shakespeare's self-buff only numbers. This is both before and after the change. Basically, we're just going to assume NP5 since he is a low star. Shakespeare originally was coming in at about 17.7k. Now is at about 21k. Definitely a nice improvement for him, even though to a large degree, a lot of people probably won't be using him for his damage output. Taking a look at him, technically you can pull off a actual proper system with him, though it does require something like K-Scope and basically Coin Sky of Light and 2 Oberons. But you can see his old numbers there, and now basically his new numbers by comparison. So he does get a little bit of a sizable bump up, and definitely could be a decent option for you, though a little bit this sort of thing is kind of overkill, and using the 2-star as the primary damage focus in a composition of all 5 stars otherwise definitely doesn't pass the smell test all the time. So it is what it is, but naturally, this is just a damage increase for him, but also a damage increase for the party. So I do like this change for Shakespeare. It just makes him a little bit more viable, a little bit more usable, I would say. So let me know what you guys think about the Shakespeare buff, and if you feel like they did a good job for this one, or if you feel like somebody else was maybe negatively impacted by this buff. I'll be curious to hear you guys' thoughts, and it definitely is an interesting one there. And last but not least, we have the Darius buff. Now, this one, I don't think I necessarily had this one on my radar, other than I definitely had a Darius buff potentially being an option. He's someone that I've mentioned before that his kit is extremely rudimentary. That's actually one of the reasons why I recommend a lot of low star options, as him being one of them, because for newer accounts, Darius is almost a free option for you. You basically just level him up, and then technically, if you don't want to, you don't have to skill or level any of his skills rather in order to make him succeed. And that's because even when they finally gave him a buff to his 3rd skill, the steroid on it was not something that actually leveled based off of the level of the skill. So you just got guaranteed 20% Buster resist down for 3 turns, and that made him an interesting option for, again, newer players that maybe aren't going to be swimming in resources. But to be honest, for a long time, Darius has actually provided pretty solid damage, and realistically, only if you could invest deeply into Kiyohime could she kind of beat him in that regard. So I find it a little bit funny that this buff doesn't go to Kiyohime, because even though she did get a pretty interesting one before, she kind of could use another. But Darius, I think Darius was still my pick because, yeah, he hasn't really received much of anything else either, and his kit is just kind of painfully simple. So they actually come in here and they buff his 1st skill, and you guys can see they took this skill from just a generic 3-turn NP gen up of 45%. On a Buster unit, and they change it to now he charges his own gauge by 30%. Now he manages to increase the party's Buster performance by 20% for 3 turns. Now he increases the party's damage against enemies with lawful alignment for 3 turns. This is a huge expansion of capability for Darius at this point. Now he is a option for low star or again just kind of easy sort of single skill leveling in order to make him capable. Now all this entire skill is on a 6-turn cooldown, so in case you're curious, yes, you can 3-turn with Darius now. This vastly improves his potential to be used. And interestingly enough, this also gives him, again, that lawful niche that actually helps him stand out a little bit from the pack. It's not a super common niche to have, So this does make him a very interesting option for various quests and nodes. So what does this mean in terms of Darius's damage output? Well, before and after the buff here with self buffs only, you can see before he was at about 25k, after he's at about 29k, but then 37.7k lawful. Definitely an interesting setup in terms of his numbers now. But keep in mind, too, this is a Berserker. He's going to get that 1.5 times effectiveness. He's not going to be rolling around necessarily with the same 2 times effectiveness that an actual, like, devoted counter class would. So it is interesting to see, and he definitely projects strongly here. But this does naturally negatively impact several of the Berserkers. And you might be thinking like, oh yeah, of course, like a unit like Spartacus, for instance, Darius now out damages and out charges. So definitely nice for Darius in that regard, but to a degree that certainly hurts the utility and usefulness of someone like Spartacus. But to be fair, hey, he is a 3-star. He should be doing more damage than a 1-star at that point. So let's go ahead and let's look at his actual damage output. What does this look like? Well, we can work him with a level 100 cranking. That is a decent 50% starting charge CE for him. You would naturally have to have his mana loading append maxed out for something like this. But behold, as you do have double Korean Sky and Oberon coming in here with Darius, and these numbers are actually not atrocious. You manage to actually have decent output overall, assuming you're doubling up on his skills, at least with regards to his third skill here. Because remember, the third skill basically is a 20% buster resist down on an enemy, so it doesn't get carried through a wave, but it is a 6-turn cooldown itself, so it can also be doubled up. So naturally, as you look at that, that's why wave 1's a little bit higher than wave 2, because wave 2 won't have the same damage output as wave 1 due to not having that debuff since you popped it on turn 1, but now you get it back for turn 2. That means we get 217k right there against, you know, like still neutral numbers, which a Berserker will almost never be at that point. But interesting to denote that, yeah, it's like you can take this number and multiply it by 1.5 and there's his actual output. This isn't going to like destroy a bunch of like meta units or anything, but it is interesting to see the actual numbers here. Doubly so in the lawful niche or man niche, as both of those are things he can easily obtain either through his own kit or through a Korean Sky pairing there. And all of a sudden, you now have the potential to double it up, and those numbers start looking mighty respectable. So this is an intriguing buff for Darius, and it really brings him online. And for comparison's sake here is Morgan Le Fay. So I know a lot of people don't like to hear it because, you know, there have been calls for like Morgan to get buffed over the years. And I'm not going to say that Morgan like desperately has to, but I think it's pretty clear at this point that Morgan Le Fay outside of niche doesn't do that solid of damage. Now, you can make it so if you get additional MP levels or you're really just kind of like focusing on one of those niches. But to me, at the end of the day, Morgan Le Fay is useful because of how like kind of variable and flexible her kit is. That's really what makes her stronger. Giving her a little bit more damage wouldn't be that big of a deal, but I could definitely see how that would upset some of the other like fans of the other Berserkers. So it is interesting to see at least that like Darius is now a little bit ascendant. He is rising into the ranks of being able to challenge at least the 5 stars. And that is intriguing to me nonetheless. So what do you guys think about the Darius update here? Are you going to be leveling up and luring your Darius? Or will you just kind of be sticking to your guns and using, you know, like your Morgan Le Fay or your like Arjuna Alter or anybody else? So be curious to hear you guys' thoughts. All in all, I think this round of buffs from the anniversary was very interesting. I think some of them are like perfect hits. Others are maybe possibly even a little too strong. And others are, hey, you know, maybe they just didn't really do enough. So they kind of ran the whole gambit here in terms of buffs. But overall, I'd give them kind of a B on this entire buff session. But I do think there's some really like bright shining points, but I also think there's some that I feel like could have been a little bit stronger, kind of like Caster Umu. So let me hear your thoughts on the overall stuff, and I will see you guys for the waiver video. Have a good one. Later. Okay. Yes, people use single damage dealer. I don't know why people think that they don't. What's my count on buff calls? That's a good question. Which ones of these did I call? Well, it's better if I look at the actual strengthening round. I did not call Muramasa. I did call Medea. Didn't call this one. I did mention, like, yeah, it like wouldn't be the worst thing in the world if they gave Ishtar a buff, but this is actually like arguably the strongest buff of the entire session, and people don't really realize it, and it's hilarious. Did not call this one. Did not call this one. Did call this. In a roundabout way, I can say I called this, but I was skeptical because, like, while I easily could have seen this, I also just, like, simultaneously thought that the devs wouldn't actually pull the trigger. This is the buff that she needed. This is absolutely phenomenal for her. I actually thought the devs didn't have the balls to do this. This I called. That's Jack. Yeah, I think Jack was my go-to. Like, the only other possibility to me was like maybe like an AoE buff to like Semiramis at this point or something like that. I think Jack was the clear front runner in my mind. Sanson as well, because I didn't see it being Cursed Arm. Caster Umu. Did I call this? I won't give myself credit for this one. I think this one was basically like, it was in the realm of like, I knew this was possible, I knew this could happen, and I thought they might, but it wasn't who I thought was going to get it in the end. I thought they would probably like give it to either one of the single targets, ironically enough, or an AoE that was maybe further down the totem pole. This, yeah, called that. This, called it. This, at least as far as I'm concerned, I thought a support would get one of these. And my basic lineup was like Waver, Scotty, Tamamo, and like kind of fell off from there. I think Miss Crane. Yeah, Miss Crane was the other one. Thank you. I was like, God, there's like someone I'm forgetting here. It was Miss Crane. Miss Crane was a weird one, though. Like, you guys got to understand, while Miss Crane could get a buff, if they buff Miss Crane, depending on what the buff is, it is either a complete nothing burger or potentially, like, broken as all dicks. So, like, that is a, like, really, like, curious one to see if they ever touch her in the future. Crane may or may not break the game. Yeah, it's really interesting in that regard. Did we get a waiver banner on JP, by the way, chat? Like, coincide with this? Sometimes they do that on the, like, last strengthening day. Ishtar's one of the best buffs I've seen in a while. I've said before, like, so chat, the reason I was kind of like negative on the Ishtar buff was not me being like anti-Rin or anti-Ishtar. The reason I was negative about that buff was because I was like, holy shit, the power creep. Do you know what you have done? It was more I was in awe that the devs actually let that one out. Not that like they chose Ishtar to get a buff. It was the specific buff that got chosen. Giving a buster unit the ability to buster chain on command is crazy. It really is. Like, I thought they learned their lesson with Seal, and they clearly didn't, because then they came out with Olga, and then they clearly were like, fuck it, I'll do it again. Okay, hold on. I gotta assemble. I have to assemble all the waiver stuff. Waivers assemble. Yep. Personally, I wish more carding units can card on demand. Yes, and that's exactly why the devs shouldn't give it to you. So, this is one of those things where player wants something, and dev should say no. Why? The dev cares about balance, the player doesn't. The player wants. Like, chat, I want my unit to be broken as dicks. Why? Because it's mine. But that's exactly why like the devs have to be careful about that stuff. Also, Avalon, you said Kiyohime wasn't stronger. To my knowledge, Kiyohime at least edged Darius pre-Darius buff. Sorry, pre-Darius's first buff. Let me clarify. This is old. We're going back in time. We're going into the time of stone tablets and chisels. She did what? She edged him. Yeah, my understanding was it was basically like Kyo with maximum investment had something on the order of like, God, I think it was like less than 1,000 more damage than Darius. And only to like the one target she had the defense down on. And then Darius, after his buff, won. And then now after this buff, I mean, Kyo's dead in a ditch at this point. Like, and I'm not saying that to insult her. I'm saying that like Kyo desperately needs a buff. The P-mod versus burn she couldn't really use? Yeah, that I know. Well, like that's my understanding historically of how it's gone, is Kyo at maximum investment was slightly better. Darius gets a buff, Kyo falls behind, Darius gets a second buff now here, Kyo's dead. Like... She needs an MP buff to apply burn damage before, yeah. I mean, you could do stuff like command codes and stuff, but yeah, it's... I think like the weird part is they tried to give her like the Salter upgrade where she charges based off of... She charges based off of like hits, but then she herself doesn't really have like any charge baked in, so it's a really weird loop for her. AoE damage Kyo is like less than Spartacus. Yeah, there's a reason Spartacus is the recommendation for 1-stars. Like prior to this Darius buff, Spartacus was like my go-to low-star berserker. Now with this, I can like just safely recommend Darius. Darius is the clear choice. There is no dispute. Darius just has a decent NP. Darius now has a good niche, and Darius has a charge skill. Everybody else is kind of blown out of the water by that. But I really wanna say my waiver. Divine. He is charged now, Pog? Yeah, did you just get here? Did you miss the prior buff analysis? Avalon said he didn't like Kyo anymore, so the dev said bet. No, I'm pretty sure that Avalon likes Kyo. Because if I've learned anything over the years, it's that Avalon has a kink for struggling women in FGO. Like off meta. Am I wrong? Called out like that? Nah, it's not like. I'm trying to think, and so based off Okuni, I may be wrong. Okay, because I don't know enough about Okuni's personality. But I'd go so far as to say like struggling's not the right word. It's more like the term I should have used is girl failures. Am I right or am I wrong, Avalon? Okuni is here to dance. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, I don't know if Okuni's actually a girl failure. I feel like the other ones Avalon likes kind of are. But Okuni may be the exception. If you include Cersei into that, it starts to check out. Oh, Cersei's definitely a girl failure. Cersei is definitely a girl failure. And it's like, it's not necessarily bad. It is literally the I can fix her, right? And to be fair, chat, some of them you can fix. Some of them you can't. Wouldn't say Okuni fits that well. Yeah, that's what I was saying. Like, I think Okuni is the exception to that. At least of the ones that I know Avalon likes. Cersei definitely made him pay out for it. Oof. Okay, chat, let's talk waiver. So, basically, waiver ended up getting a buff over the weekend, and like I was saying before in the prior video talking about the other remaining buffs, waiver was my choice. I figured of the two, a support was going to get one. I thought it was probably between waiver, Scotty, maybe like Miss Crane, maybe Tamamo, but waiver was the clear standout in my mind. And the reason for this is if you guys have been around the game for a long period in time, you know where waiver has been. Waiver goes from being utter dog trash at the beginning of the JP server to they make some quick adjustments and waiver has charge. So pretty much at that point, he gets to a point where he becomes the de facto go-to support unit for a lot of people. Waiver is the recommendation for a ton of players in the game. Even later on when we get the 5-star ticket where you can guarantee somebody right off the bat when you start playing, waiver is the advice that just about everybody gives. The problem is, over the years, we have gotten more and more and more powerful meta supports. And the strength of Waver being that he was applicable to just about every single card type and every single situation was tempered by his lack of speciality. So essentially, if you knew what card type you were taking, let's say Quick, you knew you would take a more specialized unit. So you would take a Scotty. If you knew you were taking Arts, you would take a more specialized unit, Castoria. And now, if you knew you were taking Buster, you were going to take Koinskaya. So where did that leave Waver? It left Waver as the third support in a lot of these situations. But we also had units like Reigns coming in that were maybe a little bit better of a focused third support. And you also have units later on like Oberon that are just, now at this point, just kind of destroying the game's balance state. So Waver ends up left by the wayside. He's a unit that, while good for new players and absolutely still useful, he is often overlooked due to the strength of his competitors. So that's why, to me, I've thought for a long time they would probably buff Waver, and this was the buff that I have been kind of calling for. That is to say, give him something more neutral, more generalistic, something that allowed him to flourish and exist while still retaining his identity. I think one of the things that I had entertained from chat for a while now was the possibility of, like, what if Waver got like a quick buff? And I've had numerous people ask about this, and I've said before, it's like, yes, they could absolutely give him that sort of stuff, but if they did, they risked his identity, and now you're beginning to pull him out of that generalistic stance and pull him more towards being a devoted card type support. And then, as that devoted card type support, would he have been good enough? Would he have been, like, basically the go-to? I don't know. And I frankly a little bit doubt it due to just the strength of the Scotties. So the one thing he has going for him, and the fact that he always kind of has, is that Waver has had basically the ability to split up his charge in kind of increments that are much more malleable for the player. So that allows them to manipulate things and do different stuff with it that they maybe couldn't otherwise do. I think Waver for a long time has also served as a challenge unit, as a stall unit, as a party-wide protector. And as Waver has kind of fallen out of favor and Mash slipped into her Ortneus outfit, we started to lose a lot of that party-wide protection in normal compositions, unless we were talking like the Castoria comps and things like that. So you stopped having defense up for the entire party for a while there, and it became a little bit precarious. This is actually why one of my proposed changes for like Tamamo would be to take that second skill of hers and make it party-wide, would be to help fill that gap and provide a little bit more protection to allow her healing to pop off a little bit better. So same thing kind of goes for Waver. While he has been a very good stall unit, he has been excellent at like draining, stunning, and providing defense for the party, as well as just charging the party. He has kind of fallen out of favor just due to the meta state of the game. You see a lot of things shifting more towards high octane offense and min-maxing that sort of thing to try to push the boundaries of what you can do in the minimal amount of turns. Waver can help facilitate that, but Waver is usually the odd man out or the third option, not the go-to like meta unit. That changes a little bit here. To a large degree, a lot of what I just said will remain true after this buff. You're not going to see Waver like tearing down walls and becoming like the new meta option for everybody. But this does make Waver a much, much more viable option for a specific subset of units. And even then, maybe a potential decent option over, say, someone like Reigns for a third slot or a neutral slot in a support setup. What do I mean? Let's look at his buff. So the buff is actually to his first skill. This increases one ally's critical damage for 3 turns and charges one ally's charge gauge by 30%. It is a 50% crit damage buff, all on a 5-turn cooldown. Definitely nice. They upgrade this and they call it Clock Tower's Eccentric Treasure now, which is a definitely interesting name in and of itself. And it basically now increases one ally's NP damage for 3 turns, up to 30%. The way I want you to think about this is that naturally for party-wide capability, Waver's going to still have that 30% attack up. But for a single devoted support, he now has 30% attack up and 30% NP damage. And that 30% NP damage, if you are using Oberon in the comp, can be doubled up. What does this mean? This means that for a go-to unit, Waver is a 60% buffer now, compared to being only 30%. That puts him beyond somebody like Reigns in terms of air capability. Simultaneously, you also have this capacity to double up with Oberon on at least a final turn, meaning that Waver on that final turn becomes a 90% steroid unit. That's good. That's definitely really solid. And you're going to see as we show you some examples here in a bit why that can be important. Now, next up, the next effect here is that it's going to increase one ally's overcharge by 2 stages 1 time over 3 turns. So somebody else gets basically 200% more overcharge on top of whatever they normally would have. That can actually be really, really powerful in the right hands. There are units that actually scale their damage with their overcharge. There are units that scale their buffs with their overcharge. And there are units that scale their charge with their overcharge. So this is a very, very solid upgrade for him. And while a lot of people will focus on the NP damage upside of this buff, this overcharge buff can actually change balance in certain classes due to it. So this is a really, really interesting one. And again, still all on a relatively low cooldown, all on a 30% charging skill. This is really, really nice. I've seen some people say, hey, you know, like this might have been better on like his third skill, which is his attack up and stuff like that. And while to one degree I can agree, to another degree I can disagree, because I think like this actually does work a little bit better in a Koyanskaya like setup. This actually does work a little bit better in the sense of spreading out which skills have his steroids. So that way it's not all lump sum on one skill, and if that skill is used at the wrong time, you're just ultimately penalized. This at least kind of like gives you a little bit more like padding against failure and misuse. So in that regard, I do like the fact that they put it on the skill. This skill is similar to what I thought and actually have proposed before, but it is stronger than what I thought. I actually assumed maybe something like the overcharge might happen, but not that they would give him 30% extra NP damage. So this is an interesting buff. What is this going to mean for other units? Well, let me give you guys an example. So right here on screen should be a pretty familiar unit if you watch this channel. This is my waifu. Basically Lartoria here. And you guys can see now the impact that this makes. So for instance, we can basically start her out with her 50% charge skill. No damage, no charge from a CE. No append. Huh. That's intriguing. What does that mean? It means Black Grail. See, Lartoria was a unit that for years, and I actually have a prior video a long time ago talking about this, that had enough charge to be able to 3-turn with Black Grail, but she couldn't for years. And one of the reasons why was, frankly speaking, the deficiency of the Koyanskaya system. What do I mean? It's this concept that I've talked about numerous times over the years called block 50 charge. That is to say, an issue being prevalent that you cannot break up the 50% charge increments that she has. Lartoria herself has 50% charge, and Oberon, as well as another addition to that system, has 50% charge. So what's the problem? Well, if you're a unit that has, like, say, 20% charge, you can't utilize that 20% charge effectively. It just gets wasted. And that was the problem that Lartoria had. So despite the fact that she should theoretically have enough charge to loop from a 0% starting charge standpoint, she couldn't do it until things like overcharge CEs were considered. And that therein impacted damage performance compared to units that maybe didn't require that because they were able to use things like Black Grail. So with this in mind, we can look at this, we could say, hey, we could start her off with a 50% Koyanskaya skill there, and basically I guess we're free to go ahead and use the waiver 10% at that point just for a little bit of extra turn 1 damage. So basically you'd use all of one Koyanskaya and rotate. That's going to get 110% charge, which is a little bit overkill, but it's going to fire off the NP, refund 20%, and then you're going to end up utilizing the other Koyanskaya skill and waivers 30%, his new skill upgrade. Brings her up to 100% again. She fires off the NP again. But because you use double Koyanskaya, you get back to her charge skill. So she gets that. But look at that overcharge. Lartoria is a unit that scales her NP refund on the back of her NP based off of her overcharge. That's why Mud Rain worked for her, because it allowed her to start from 0 and still get back to the amount of charge that she needed to complete a 3-turn loop. So that 40% there combined with her 50%, you only need waivers additional 10%, which that's just going to be his defense skill. And there you've completed a 3-turn loop from 0. But is that the best we can do? Well, behold, Lartoria with an A5 and A2. So that's her second append and fifth append basically being added in here. So now in this set of circumstances, still a 0% CE, so Black Grail. We now get a 20% append and a 50% charge skill from her, bringing her up to 70%. And then we go ahead and we use waivers 30% charge. That's going to allow for a single Koyanskaya buff here. But why is this important? Well, you'll notice this isn't a double Koyanskaya setup. That's why we're doing the 5th append. You see, with the 5th append, we can now get the charge low enough to make this sort of thing work. Same thing with the other damage skills. Lartoria has basically enough charge already baked into her kit. She actually doesn't need to double that one up. But this allows her to double up her first 2 skills, which are primarily where her damage comes from. So if you see that now we've gotten the waiver 30% on her turn 1, still get that 40% refund. So at that point, you utilize all of the Koyanskaya there in wave 2, at least all the remaining stuff. That's going to bring you up to 90%. You rotate the other Koyanskaya out, you bring Oberon in, and then you're basically going to go ahead and do the attack buff from waiver there. You've completed 100%, fire off the NP one more time, and now you refund only the 20% again, but now you have Oberon 70% and still the 10% remaining of waiver. Do you see the impact that splitting up waiver charge is already beginning to have? And you might be thinking like, okay, Cad, but like, is that big of a deal? Like, yeah, you can split this up. You can run with additional supports, but is this actually a like big deal for Lartoria or any other unit? Yes, it is. So on screen, you're going to see a lot of numbers now. This is basically Lartoria's old numbers. This is her before the waiver change with a double Koyanskaya Oberon, level 100 Mud Rain, which is definitely a rare C for people to have, and a level 10 Neo plug suit. So if we're just comparing NP1 numbers, for instance, and there are NP2 and NP5 here as well, but just NP1 numbers, you can see now with the old system, she can get up to about 375k. Now, what does this mean? This includes her new buffs. This includes her capability to kind of deal significant damage that she got recently with her upgrade. But this is an interesting one because this sort of thing still fell short in a couple of ways. This is a major facelift for Lartoria. It brought her damage into more of the modern era of FGO, but prior to Mud Rain, we would have seen Lartoria having to use something like Cranking. So Lartoria has jumped from Cranking to Mud Rain, which was an increase, to her skill upgrade, which is another huge increase that you see here. And now let's look at her numbers with the waiver buff. With the waiver buff, now in the new system, we can run Lartoria and we can get up to a whopping 446k. That is absurd, because that is the difference in basically Black Grail damage. Black Grail, yes, as chat's saying, Black Grail is a hell of a drug. It is a lot of firepower, not just because it's an additional basically like 20 to 30% more NP damage over other options, but also because it is a 2400 attack scaling CE that it holds over a lot of other options. So it is a ton, plus the synergy with Oberon. Now you may be thinking, okay, how does that check up against Melisande? Basically our Lancer damage queen. This is Melisande's damage in her proper best comp. 440. Melisande, raw damage outside of niche, has been dethroned. Melisande has actually been beaten now by Lartoria. I never thought I'd see this day, honestly. I am very happy to see it. But at the same time, that just shows you the sheer difference that the waiver buff has made. Basically, waiver is now capable of acting like Rising Mud Rain. So now the unit can use Black Grail, get the higher firepower out of that, still get a lot of boosting capability due to waiver's own additional 30% NP damage and ability to double it up with Oberon, and still have that capability to act as the overcharge option. So it's a huge buff for certain units. And basically, you can see here, interestingly enough, other units can use this. Melisande could use waiver, and it would still work with Black Grail. The difference is simply that it is less damage than her normal composition, so it's kind of not to her benefit too. But it is an intriguing thing. So where is waiver going to matter a little bit more? Well, I'll give you another example. On screen, we have Artoria, another unit that refunds basically with overcharge on the back end of her NP. And you can see this is the exact way the charge breakdown works for her. This allows Artoria to also access Black Grail. Now, this is an interesting one, because you might be thinking, wait, Artoria can touch Black Grail now? Holy crap, she's going to also overtake the next option. Well, let's look at her numbers. So here's Artoria's old numbers with the old system using Rising Mud Rain. And you can see we can get up to about 339k. Here's her new numbers with Black Grail. And you can see just the sheer damage Black Grail makes. Just the absurdity of capability here on top of Waiver's new addition. It is basically a 110k upgrade for damage output. That is nothing to sneeze at, especially since both, like, here we still have the man niche, but, like, for instance, if we go back to Lartoria still has power mods. She still has, like, anti-chaotic and evil that she can really just kind of, like, go to town against. So there's a lot of potential extra scalability here. We're just talking the base numbers. Now, the thing you guys need to know as well about the base numbers, and this is pretty true of both Lartoria and Artoria. By running this composition, interestingly enough, your wave 2 numbers go down. Why? Well, a large chunk of that has to actually do with the way their skills work. Basically, they end up having damage steroids that are 1 turn duration. You pop those turn 1, you get back to it by turn 3. If we manage to have double Koyanskaya, we could do that on turns 2 and 3. But with single Koyanskaya, we barely get back. So it is what it is, and you just have to accept that the skills are going to be used on the turns that they are. So that is something you will have to watch out for. It's way more damage turn 3. It's a little bit less damage turn 2. Now, again, 450k is pretty insane. How does she compare, though, against Salter, who has been topping the charts? So, interestingly enough, this would allow her to beat Salter outright. It's not even close. Except Salter can also use this exact composition as well. Salter can also work with Waver. And that makes Salter even stronger. Salter actually just further power crept the rest of the Saber class. And, like, to a degree, you know, I'm sure, like, lore-wise, some people feel that's justified. Game-wise, balance-wise, I don't know how good this is for the game that the 4 stars is just absolutely trouncing the 5 stars at this point. Interestingly enough, OG Artoria is her main competition now due to this change. And that's kind of absurd. I did not expect that. This was actually something we kind of discovered on a whim. I was sitting there and I was like, how does she stack up against Salter? I was talking with Avalon about this. We were running the numbers. And then I was like, well, can she run him too? And Avalon looked into that. It's like, oh yeah, wow. It actually improved her. Like, we didn't think it would, but that is the sheer capacity that like Waver and Oberon synergy have now. It's really, really good in certain circumstances. So it is just a really interesting thing to see that, yes, even Salter gets significantly stronger due to this change. And it's frankly, like, absurd to me. Yeah, to a large degree, like, Artoria and Salter are so close, it's not a big deal. The rest of the Sabers, I feel a little bit bad for at this point. But it is what it is. But you don't have to stop there. We don't have to, like, literally just focus on units that get overcharged that scales up their charge. There are units like a Rash that, frankly speaking, get more damage with their overcharge, assuming a unit lives. So, what do we mean by that? Well, if you look at the top composition here, this would be a Rash's prior, like, best comp. It's 1 turn damage, but this is how you'd get, like, kind of the most firepower here for him, or at least, like, double Koyanskaya. I think maybe double Oberon, you might be able to get a tad bit more, but, like, it's interesting. Now, you're not going to see that, again, like on the right over here, he gets extra hits. You're not going to see that he's going to get extra damage here because there is no overcharge being provided by this standard comp. So these numbers are just his base. But what happens if we do Waver and Oberon and Koyanskaya of Light now? Arash's base damage goes up. Significantly so. Interestingly enough, the man niche, because we lose a Koyanskaya, it's not as big of an improvement, but interestingly, it is an improvement. And then because if the unit lives, he gets additional overcharge hits. The numbers start going absurd. This is pretty disgusting one-shot damage with a 1-star archer. Like, frankly speaking, I'm kind of surprised at this point at the scalability of this buff. So, realistically, this is just a nutty thing. So, what about another unit like Bima? Bima's another unit that he's gonna get extra damage off of his overcharge. You guys can see the top numbers are the way he used to be. Your bottom numbers are the way he is now. So you get almost a 300k across the board increase to all of Bima's performance now with this waiver buff. This is why I said this buff is maybe more than people realized. The waiver buff is actually strategically the best option, depending on what you're working with. Now, you know, another one comes to mind, like Chen Gong, for instance. Modeling Chen Gong would have been a little bit crazy, so we chose not to do it for the purposes of this video, but he'd be another really great option. And there's also other units that have scaling overcharges where their buff gets stronger for each turn. So if you have a unit like, say, for instance, Kentucky Rider, or other units that maybe like the overcharge buff is significantly stronger due to having additional ranks, that's a good sign to try waiver. It will probably work to your benefit if you do that. So this waiver buff, I think a lot of people probably look at it and they probably go like, it's not that big of a deal, right? Like, yeah, it's a thing, but you know, it's good buff, whatever. Buff's a lot bigger, I think, than people realize. Doubly so because now what this buff does, as you guys saw with some of those compositions, this buff gives you options. Now you don't have to run a double Koyanskaya in every situation. Now you can work in waiver. Now you can basically take the one you don't have on support. So this means if you have Koyanskaya and Oberon, but you didn't have waiver, you can take a waiver support. This means if you had waiver and Koyanskaya, you can take an Oberon support. This means if you had Oberon and waiver, you can take a Koyanskaya support. And this system would work. Now, keep in mind, where you're getting a lot of the value is the double up with Oberon. It's the synergy with scaling overcharge skills. And it is the inclusion of Black Grail in places that maybe didn't have it before. The things you want to watch out for if you're running a single Koyanskaya is remember the turn cooldown rule. With a double Koyanskaya setup, 6 turns works. With 5th append, 7 turns. With single Koyanskaya, though, 5 turns works and allows it to be doubled up, but only if you have the 4th append, or sorry, the 5th append. So that's basically the thing you need to watch out for. Make sure you have enough charge to still work through your 3-turn sequence, or to at least be able to pull off your one-shot damage, but I'm going to assume one-shot damage would always be easy for you guys. But that's where I think like you guys might get tripped up potentially, is in skill cooldowns and stuff. So check your lores, make sure that the skills are maxed for you guys that need them. But yes, this waiver buff, exceedingly strong. Exceedingly strong at this point. Yeah, that's true. That's actually a good point. Someone in chat brought this up just now, but basically if you have Koyanskaya, Oberon, or waiver now, you can take the damage dealer instead and still be able to pull off this system. So you want to borrow a Super Laratoria? I got one for you. But like, yeah, it is an interesting thing. This is a upgrade that I've always wanted them to do. This solves one of the major flaws of the Koyanskaya setup. And it really does help even the playing field for a couple of units that maybe, I'm not going to say they were weak, but they were struggling in the current meta state of the systems. Now this allows them to, thanks to his split charge capabilities, utilize their true effectiveness in the way they probably should have been. And in that regard, I am super grateful for this buff. I think this buff actually does change a lot more than people probably give it credit for. So anyways, let me know what you guys think about the waiver buff. Was there a unit that I missed that would have been really synergistic here? And what do you think the next support should be that gets an upgrade? I'd be curious to hear you guys' thoughts. Let me know in the comments below. And if you haven't already, make sure you like and subscribe. It helps support the channel, helps support me. And again, I will see you guys for the next video. Have a good one. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Never thought I'd see that day. This was one of the buffs that I like theorized with like Bob all the way back in the day. And I never thought we'd see this. I never thought we'd see it. I didn't realize the buff would be that big. When I saw it, like when I literally basically I remember that day, like I opened up my phone and Avalon's like waiver buff and I'm like, huh? And I looked at him like overcharge. like my eyes just went like it was the Shaq meme of I sleep, I'm awake, right? Like real shit. Tammy's still coming out of the woodworks with that. I mean, honestly, I think as well, due to the fact, chat, that waiver is neutral, we talked a lot about buster units, but this can work for quick units. This can work for arts units. So, like, this is truly a good buff. I really do mean it. Like, and because it's overcharge, you can also potentially put this on a non-damage dealer. Though, keep in mind, if you put it on a non-damage dealer, this portion of the buff is just so. So Mel needs a buff, Kappa? No, and this is funny because Bob brought it up to me. He's like, so Cad, like, what now? Like are they gonna buff Mellison? Like watch Mellison get a buff. And I was like, they really can't. Like, if they buff Mellison's NP damage, for instance, chat. I hate to say it, but you're probably looking at, like, a complete and total restructuring, yet again, of the entire Lancer class. Like, the problem with Mellison is simply that they created her in too strong of a state to begin with. So as a result, you've seen what they've had to do. Like, it took a super buff to Laratoria and a buff to another support to allow her to touch Black Grail to finally beat Mel. The reason I never thought I'd see that day, chat, I didn't think that would happen without an NP interlude for Laratoria. Like, dead serious. I thought that would be what it would take. And by the way, I've kept my mouth shut about this, like, basically like all Sunday, all throughout the day today. I had several people try to bait me into talking about this, and I just was like, nope, I'm going to say anything. Are you recording Laratoria and Artoria loops with waiver now? I can record at least one. And when I say record, I don't mean actually record. Because, like, if I like actually hit the record button, this thing's gonna go to crap, right? Okay, what am I doing? Why does he have that? Hold on. I need I'm so happy that these toggles came to NA because now I know what they mean. Like on before on JP, I could not really use them because I didn't know what they meant. Let's do that one. Change the append. Oh, do I not have her 5th append? I don't. Shit, I better do something about that. Let me get the comp set up first. I already have the... Chat, is there another 4-star CE that gives, like, extra bond? I don't think there is. I love this gives Waver a somewhat niche while keeping him a great generalist. Yeah, and that's why, like, this was a buff I had proposed for a while. Like, it was something that, like, I needed to do. Sorry, I literally read someone in chat saying no 5th append and then thought to myself I need to do that, and that's what came out. That was a Freudian slip. That's why I thought they needed to do this, is because it was basically, it served his best interest. That's some type of experience. I'd say that portrait. That one I'm already using. It's already in the comp. Whatever, chat. There we go. It doesn't have to be, but it will. Wow, have I really not done like her appends? That's kind of funny. Damn, chat. Should I what do you guys think? Should I switch one of the appends or should I just do this? You see, chat, I've bonded my waifu a bit here. No. That's age. So much for the question. Uh-huh. Could have went to the appends from the party screen. I always forget that stuff like that can be done. Zer, they give her the follow, and Vin earlier, they give her the follow. I straight up, like, there's certain things where, chat, I am just a FGO boomer, okay? Like, I forget that there is a new quality of life that helps me. The illusion of choice, it is. Do you have enough coins for the 3rd append too? How many coins do we get for the last bond slot, chat? Because I'm currently at 30. I think I do, but that's only if the last one gives 90. Cat, I figured it out. Koyan Mudrain with Waver and 2 times Oberon. Are you meaning like for Koyan Skya as the damage dealer? Or what? 60, I think? If it's 60, I'm fucked then. Yeah, it'd be 30 short. Sounds typical. To be fair, chat, she didn't need the 5th append like all this time. Only now is it like, hey, this helps. Okay, I'll turn it back off. Whoosh. Wait, did I have Black Rail equipped? I actually didn't pay attention. I think I did. I'm just second guessing myself. She a man eater. Cutting damage dealer? Yeah. Wait, why Mud Rain with her? You know, I guess I could have done this on turn 1, but whatever. This is the turn where you'd actually have less. Koyan's OC is also refund, yeah. If they ever buffed Artoria's charisma, she'd probably have higher damage than Selter. Yes. I think they're not going to now. So I think there is a interesting reason to how they came about this buff. I suspect they looked at what they could give waiver. They noticed that overcharge would be one of the options. And they probably thought, oh, wait, this kills 2 birds with 1 stone. Because I think that has been an issue. Is they've noticed that it, like, just actually, this is just this is neutral single enemy damage, chat. But I think they looked at that and they said, like, okay, hey, because of that, like, this actually lets us fix the Artoria problem that, like, they had. Interestingly enough, chat, this does not fix Mordred. Mordred got screwed here. So the reason why Mordred got screwed, Mordred has a 6-turn charge skill. So she can't run single Koyan. Whereas Artoria has a 5-turn charge skill. So it becomes a little bit spicy. As is meant to be. Yeah, I have a lot of you want to get some of the other ones for the other recordings I'd appreciate. Let's run the same thing here. And we'll do Artoria. Unfortunately, my Artoria is not a grand, chat. Feels bad. Oh, wait, no, she is. We did have Saber. I was forgetting. Like, in my brain, we had the Archer Grand and not the Saber Grand. Wait, so Cad, what you're saying is Melisson can get 2 buffs now? I'm saying Melisson probably can't get buffed ever. Like, if they do, they probably can't touch damage output without, like, wrecking the current balance state. And I'm not saying that, like, because this favors Artoria. I'm saying you have Artoria that now slightly edges her. You have Erish that's slightly beneath her, but above her if super effective. But then you have a ton of other Lancers that don't touch her yet. So if they basically buff Mel, all the other Lancers that haven't even gotten to her yet are just dead. They're actually dead. Like, and that's not a good thing. I don't know where I'm gonna go when the volcano blows. Do 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 do. Do 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 do. Do 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 do. Ba-ba. I'd absolutely give her a wide niche. Well, I mean, what Ruler Bell has Earth super effective, right, chat? Buntrey doesn't get saved either because she doesn't get more with overcharge. Correct. I'm still waiting on a Buntoria NP interlude that they will probably never give her. But she actually could really use one, at least in my opinion. Buff Melison skill 3 so that changed all her cards to Buster for 3 turns. I'm dead serious. I think like one of the only things I'd be willing to accept for Mel is the ability for her to flip back and forth with her 3rd skill. Basically so that you can desync it from her or just desyncing it from her her ascension form. Because I think that is, I think a lot of us can agree that the tying of gameplay mechanics to specific ascension forms is kind of dumb. I think it's one thing to have maybe different traits in different forms. I think it's another to have like your skills work completely differently. Because naturally there's a meta state for skills. So it's like, that's one of my big complaints about like Olga. I love Olga. I love her design. I love what they've done with her. But that is maybe like the one downside that I have is that like, yeah, in order to like use her in certain ways, you, instead of choosing when you press the skill, you now have to actually like keep her in an ascension form. And to be fair, if they were worried about like, say for instance, using her 3rd skill in the 3rd form and using her 2nd skill in the like first 2 forms, you could make it where like if you press one of those skills that like the other effect has to be that way. So like you could still keep it skill rooted rather than ascension rooted. I love her 2nd ascension, but I feel forced to use her ascension 3 for Bond. Yeah, it just depends. Let me see if I can pull off Salter. Salter's a bit of a weird one for me on my JP account because I don't think mine's strong enough. I don't have enough copies of her yet on JP. Yeah, you need 2nd and 5th append. And I think I only have 2nd append on her. Sorry, wrong one. Yeah, I only have 2nd, and it's only like barely unlocked. So I can't even demonstrate the top tier Salter comp on JP. My NA could do this, my JP can't. You NP5'd her? I did, but there's a problem. If I would like to 120 her, I can't do that. No, it is what it is. That'll have to be good enough. Hold on. It's fine. Yeah, I mean, it is. I just... Wait, no. I actually want that. I'm still pissed. How did I miss a free roll? Just get some salters from free story rolls. Yeah, easy, right? Like, and this is chat. This is why I don't roll, because like literally the times that I have rolled story purposefully, I've managed to like get salter. The other times I haven't. So that's been kind of some of the problem here. I'm at a 2 times roll too. Yeah. I do wish they would maybe make it like I don't know, maybe make it where you could like farm out another like 120 or like 240 coins. And like if they wanted to cap it, that's one thing, but I do feel like certain units just kind of get like hard messed up by the coin situation still. Oh, this is the okay. Omega lol. Pure prisms? That'd be an interesting one. Like further on down the line. The problem is they have actually like extended the amount of stuff you can get with pure prisms now. So like they doubled the number of like refresh tickets. So like every time they do that, they keep like kicking the can down the road. I think Evo tickets would be another interesting one, but who knows? Isn't it only day 9 though, and day 0 we couldn't do it? I don't know. If that's the case, chat's gaslighting me because they're insisting that that some of them have already done it. So it is what it is. Do I have Draco? Or not Draco. Nero. Do I have your append? She doesn't need the 20% append. I can get this one at least, Avalon. I don't know about the others. Because I just haven't done the upgrades. Oh, this double coin is required for this. She's got to do cranking. Okay, this will be it. Shakespeare and Darius will be more about animations for the background. Yeah. Granted, seeing a full high octane double Koya and Skya Darius would be interesting. I also did not look at what's in this node, and that was maybe a bad idea. Chat, please tell me there were no writers in this node. Yeah, sure. And Zerx, I was gonna say it is surf mode, so there shouldn't be, right? You know it's bad when I'm more focused on filming content than like what the actual content of the node is. Finally, Yuri pirates are together. Mm-hmm. See what I'm saying, chat? Like, I don't have a particularly strong caster Umu on JP, and I'm still doing solid damage here. There is potentially no writers in this node. See, Peanut, that's why I don't trust chat as comments like that. Did the buff about waivers, did the video about waivers buff come out yet? No, we just recorded it. It's a good one. Okay. Why is okay? I was gonna say, why is that not loading out? All right, chat. It's 11:06. You know what time it is. Let me see who all's on. Oh, wow. I'm not seeing like anybody. Okay, chat. We will end it here for tonight. I will see you guys tomorrow. And again, we'll have hopefully more. I'm gonna try to get to the rest of the interview to transcribe it for you guys so we can talk about more of it, but it is what it is. Thank you guys for hanging out with me tonight. I hope you guys enjoyed. I hope you found it informative. And do me a favor, watch the video when it comes out. Give me that sweet, sweet view. I always appreciate it. So I'll see you guys for the next one. Have a good evening, and may the courts be with you.